Welcome in, Lucky Lefty Podcast. As you can see, the sun is setting in the west here in Chicago. Left is out in Arizona. We are brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. And you know what? If you're going to drink, by all means, make sure you do it
responsibly.
You got to do it responsibly.
And if I am a reflection of him, then I must be fly. Because if you like the sun so bright, I wouldn't lie. I remember the very first day that I saw him.
What's good, LL Nation? Happy Wednesday to everybody. Big time show today. We get back to practice access tomorrow, so we'll have another camp report for you tomorrow on the YouTube page. We won't have a show. We'll have the show on Friday. Today, we'll talk about the release of the new docuseries, August the 29th. We'll let Left give his thoughts. We didn't have a chance to talk about it, but we'll hear from linebacker coach Max Bullock. We'll also hear from the linebackers. And then we're going to talk about Notre Dame being 7th in the AP poll. And as much love as the Texas A&M defense is getting from Notre Dame fans primarily, did we forget that Notre Dame has a top 5 defense itself? Will Texas A&M even be the best defense on the field that day? And I'm going to tell you why I think this game could end up looking like Duke last year early on. Notre Dame made one mistake that led it to the outcome that manifested itself. If Notre Dame learns this lesson, Notre Dame might win this thing very easily. Very easily. Yeah, we're going to break it down, Left. We're going to get into it. Don't forget, CMB Nation, Apple Podcast, Spotify, audio edibles each and every day. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. It helps with all the views. Leave your comments, questions. We respond to all. And then, we are forever committed to being the home of the misguided passion. Don't forget about our patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network. Man, all we do is continue to spin it. So, Left, man, how's your Wednesday going, bro?
Going great. Football season starts in 2 weeks. Team is gearing up on both ends, high school and Notre Dame. So, it's going to be a good football season, I think, all around.
I saw a couple of clips of Creed Thomas. I guess they had a media day over at Brophy. I saw him talking his ish. You know what I mean? He was talking big stuff too.
Oh, I know. They got to see us. They got to see us when it matters.
Wait, they got to see you?
Playoffs, because we going to the playoffs. I don't know about them.
That we coming with that type of vitriol towards the Notre Dame commit.
I'm calling the plays.
You going right at him, Left? Right at him?
Calling the plays. We said, where is he out on the field? Yeah, we going over there.
You're not gonna throw away from him.
No, we're gonna run to him, then we're gonna throw at him, see how he take both, see how he handle a screen. We're gonna get him right.
You got the Brophy staff using LL podcast to get the team hype. When Malik's team comes to calling, because they're gonna use this as bulletin board material. That is absolutely amazing. Once again, we're gonna get to Max Bullock, and we're gonna get to the linebackers. Our guy Ken Gibbs. Is going to join us. He's going to join us in about 40 minutes. We're going to give you a preview of every ACC opponent. Every ACC opponent on the schedule. He's going to give you the background, and he might give you a couple of betting tips when it comes to those games based upon the early lines and how things stack up right here only on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Notre Dame, number 7 in the AP poll, Left. Number 7. You in or out on that? How are you feeling? I guess Left stepped away. So, ladies and gentlemen, how are you feeling? That's the LL question today. Do you feel like Notre Dame was ranked accordingly? Do you feel like Notre Dame should have been ranked a little bit higher? And stepping outside of Notre Dame, is there anyone in that top 15 that you feel like a little bit overrated? I will say this. I think the last team outside of the top 6 that won the national championship, I believe, was 2013 Florida State, if I'm not mistaken. And with Notre Dame being 7th, they would qualify for that if they were able to run the table and hoist the banner and the trophy at the end of the year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out. SEC definitely represented. I think they had 9 teams in the top 25. And it starts with Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State, Missouri, Utah, LSU, Clemson, Tennessee, Oklahoma State at 17, Kansas State at 18, Miami, our boy Roosevelt, your boys at 19, meaning they probably will end up outside of the top 25 by the end of the season. Texas A&M, they make it a top 20 matchup at College Station on the 31st. Arizona, I thought Arizona, if Jed Fish was still there, I think Arizona would be a little bit higher. The transition, we'll see, because they definitely have the offensive weapons. They did lose a lot on defense, especially at the edge. Kansas, USC, North Carolina State. We're going to talk to Ken Gibbs about the Wolfpack being ranked 24th and what to look for. And then the Iowa Hawkeyes. The Iowa Hawkeyes, man. Ladies and gentlemen, as a Midwesterner, I was not staying in that top 25. Not in the new Big Ten. Iowa won't be there in the end. So that was kind of like a participation prize or a participation trophy for Iowa. Like, we'll put you guys in at the beginning, but they will have a stout defense once again. I truly believe they'll have a stout defense once again, and we'll see how they play out. Left, you're on mute, bro. I want to make sure you know you're on mute. So how do you guys feel about where Notre Dame ranks? Yeah, Coach Vic, I agree. I'm not really buying Ole Miss.
So yeah, I'm not really buying Ole Miss either. I think what's crazy about Ole Miss is that they got the Ferrari exterior, but a Volvo engine. They look nice. They got all the pieces. They got all the bells and whistles. Cute jerseys. When it come down to it, they'll float around the top 10 and won't win nothing. Imagine that. You float around the top 10 every week. They hyping you in ESPN stories, this, that, the third. Paul Feinbaum sends y'all the next thing smoking. And then y'all get to Alabama lose, and then y'all lose a random one, and then the season over at the end of November. It happens clockwork, on time, routine.
Yeah.
But that's where that's where Notre Dame has to thrive. We thrive in November because October is for pretenders. November is for contenders. It's the name of the game. Now it's December because you got the playoffs. But the thing is, where we have to come into play, we have to figure out how do we use depth, how do we use these young guys to get us to being the healthiest by the time playoff matters.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to question, and this is, I'm not saying that you're going to be right about the bet. I'm going to question Alabama being ranked 5th. I'm going to question that, Left. I don't see it. I do think they have a dominant college football offensive line, because all of them are just fat. Just the same typical Alabama, huge 330-pound offensive lineman that by the time they get to the NFL, they'll flop, because that's what they do. But when it comes to college football and just being able to hold and maul, Alabama's going to have one of the top offensive lines in the SEC. I don't know who's playing wide receiver for Alabama. It doesn't matter because Jalen Milroe isn't exactly the most accurate quarterback.
See, I don't like that. What kind of stereotype is that?
So you can wait a minute. So Jalen Milroe hasn't shown the ability to be accurate. I can't critique him, but you can critique Riley Leonard because he hasn't shown the ability to be accurate.
I never said anything about Riley Leonard's accuracy.
Now say what?
I talked about his yards in the season.
Boy, you are about to flip this narrative like Clutch Sports. Go ahead.
I said the yards.
You are flipping right now. Go ahead.
Under 3,000 yards.
The soundtrack right now.
In 2024, for a top quarterback, under 3,000 yards is a concern. I never said his accuracy wasn't great. Look at what he did at the Manning camp. Apparently, he went crazy. But I'm saying that
you haven't referenced the Florida State game and the Notre Dame game. You haven't said that this young man still needs to prove that he can make it happen with his arm. You haven't been saying that.
He 100% needs to prove he needs to make it happen with his arm.
Jalen Milroe needs to prove the same thing.
How?
Are we doing this?
The brother went to the playoffs
and did what against Michigan? What did his arm do against Michigan?
They lost.
What did his arm do against Michigan?
Wasn't great. Didn't have a great game.
Okay then.
Didn't have a great game.
And when they beat Georgia, it wasn't because of his arm.
Whoa. See,
look at the stats. Go look at the stats. I know what the stats say. Maybe you need to bring them back up on your end. Bring them up. Bring them out.
When he had to make the throws that matter, look at all.
Oh, here we go. So now we are minimizing for Jalen Milroe. We are minimizing himself through the air to moments.
Jalen Milroe has to prove himself.
If Riley Leonard has moments, is that good enough for you? Left, come on, Left.
I question Riley Leonard's ability to get over 3,000 yards. Absolutely.
Doesn't he have to be accurate to do so? Can he be inaccurate and get over 3,000 yards? I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's possible.
You can be accurate and have under 3,000.
I said over. You said over 3,000.
Yes, he has to prove that he has to get over that. Absolutely.
Okay. So can you be inaccurate and get over 3,000 yards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where? What system?
If you have
the old Houston, the Andre Ware old Houston system?
Yeah, I mean, if you got it's the style of offense. It's definitely style. And I'm saying Denmark's offense will challenge Riley's ability.
You played in his offense.
Riley's ability to be consistently accurate will be challenged because he's being asked, hopefully, to expand over 3,000 yards. Absolutely. I'm not saying his accuracy isn't great. I'm saying the numbers is the numbers. Jalen Milroe has numbers that are winnable. Now, is he the best quarterback in the class? No. But can he win games throwing the football? We've seen it.
So how are you questioning me stereotyping him when I'm just saying he has something to prove throwing the football?
Because that's easy to say.
I'm in the back. I'm jumping in this conversation Uber with you, but I don't know where you take it. Where are you taking me on this ride?
I'm just saying. They both need to be better. But I never questioned Riley's accuracy. I questioned the amount of yards he had in the season.
So let me get this straight. You have no problem with the accuracy of Riley Leonard. I feel like you're copping the plea right now, but go ahead.
It's sufficeable. It's serviceable. We appreciate Riley Leonard's ability. That's why he's here. Has he done it on a level where you're like, oh, he's an elite passer in college football? No.
Okay.
Now, can he be accurate and not have the volume of yards? Yeah, that's possible. But is that his strength compared to his playmaking, quote unquote, and running ability? No.
That's the same thing with Jalen Milroe.
But Jalen Milroe's not asked to do what Riley will be asked to do this year.
Are you kidding me? All right, Jalen Milroe wasn't asked to do more with that terrible offense they had last year.
Notre Dame's offense is going to require somebody who can throw the football to take that next step. That's not Alabama's issue offensively.
Last year, against big-time opponents, it was.
They went to the playoffs. Only four teams make it.
And Jalen Milroe struggled in the playoffs to effectively throw the ball.
Having a bad game is having a bad game.
Okay, now we're minimizing it to that.
What? It's the playoffs. I mean, yeah, he didn't play great. Definitely has a lot to prove.
Statistically, both of their best years statistically are pretty much the same.
Which I said they both have to prove a lot. I just said that Riley.
Okay, so how do I get taxed with my comments being a stereotype?
Because I'm
the same complexion as Jalen Milroe? I can't critique this dude? Please tell me.
We both critiqued him.
Okay, so I'm a little bit darker than you, so that my critique is a little bit worse.
Oh no, I'm out in Arizona now. We may have caught up to each other.
What we saying? You said we caught up to each other. The Arizona sun got you baked a little bit. A conversation that only two real brothers can have with each other, right?
That's right. That's
not
right.
Like brothers in the form of culture, like actually relationship. Like you Lefty podcast. But no, man, I don't know with Burton going to the NFL, the transfer, the other wide receiver, I forget the transfer to Texas. Who does he have left? Where are the weapons? Where are the weapons?
It's Alabama.
Okay, I hear you. That sounds good. That's like, oh man, it's Alabama. Well, you know what? Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. I don't know.
Not, which is why they won't make. They're gonna lose 5 games.
Like, come on, bro. They're not gonna lose 5 games. I said they don't deserve to be in the top 5. I'll agree with you.
How many games Colorado losing?
How many games? I have to look at Colorado's schedule. I mean, heck, no one expected Colorado. Let's be real. People thought Colorado were going to win like.
No, we're being real. Deion said he brought the Louis luggage. This is year 2. How many games the man winning?
Ceiling is 7-8 for Colorado.
7-8. Okay.
7-8. It don't matter because Shador is going to the Dallas Cowboys. The writing's on the wall. Dak is out of there. I don't know why people don't see it.
He said he's out of there.
No, Dak is out of there. Shador is the next quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, bro.
They're calling it today. What's today? Let's jot it down.
Didn't you see Deion Sanders say, "We're not going to a small market team"? He said,
Deion don't run these NFL teams.
Okay, what LA, New York, or Chicago team needs a quarterback? Atlanta doesn't need a quarterback. The only big market team that needs a quarterback is the Dallas Cowboys. That's it.
They're about to resign this brother.
Who, Dak? No, they're not. No, they're not.
That's what the talks is about right now.
It's not happening. In my opinion, now, if they sign Dak and don't give CD his money, they're done. They're done. They're done. And I didn't know that the Dallas Cowboys, the most profitable and valued NFL franchise, is 31st in the league in spending on their roster. 31st, left. 31st. Jerry's like, I guess Jerry's trying to be a good steward too.
He works on drafting talent.
Yo, send your GTB questions to super chats. We'll get to them immediately. But Left, I'm going to be honest with you, man. When you really think about Alabama at 5, I think that's just based upon the resume and the history, and really not taking a step back and looking at that schedule and looking at what sits in front of them, the challenges of the transition and the schedule. I mean, they actually face Georgia head up now during the season. They don't have to wait They dominate Georgia in the SEC championship, but now they have to face them during the regular season. Yeah.
They play Georgia in the regular season. They play Auburn. They play LSU.
Yeah.
They play Florida. I think they play Florida.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Oh, speaking of Florida, that November, dude, have you seen that schedule in November? Billy Napier might as well start sending his resume out, bro. Might as well. It's a wrap.
Who they got?
Yeah, collect the check. You haven't seen this November schedule?
No.
Bro, it's the SEC did them so wrong, bro. Let me pull it up for you. If they can beat Miami, hopefully they beat Miami so we can come on here talking trash to Roosevelt about losing to Florida. But if they can beat Miami and sneak through September and October a little bit unscathed, maybe with one loss, they go into November, bro. How would you like this? At Georgia, at Texas, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, and at Florida State. That's the last 5 games, bro. Last 5 games. If they go undefeated until November, I'm like, it won't even make a difference.
It won't even make a difference.
It won't even make a difference.
All them games, you win or go home in November. That's it. It ain't even no.
Yo.
It don't matter how hot you start because November's all that matters.
No.
And it starts with Georgia.
It starts
like the first game is
Georgia. At Georgia.
Yeah, that's the first.
At Georgia.
Yeah.
And after you come out of that
emotion after that game, yeah, it's the emotion after that game.
No,
fam. You jump into who?
At Georgia, at Texas. What?
You play Georgia. 2 playoff teams.
On the road.
Yeah.
Nah.
You're not going to make the playoffs based on those 2 games alone.
Yeah,
which sucks.
Much. Yeah.
Your whole season is based on them 2 games, and you're not making it.
Yeah.
And you have to go 2 for 2. You can't even go 1 for 2. You got to go for 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Because Texas, they lose that game, no telling what their season looked like. So Georgia's only lost 1 game in 3 years.
Georgia dude, if they could avoid Bama in the SEC championship game.
No, 2 games in 3 years.
Man, dude. Lucky Lefty podcast. So who else left as we get ready to close out, man, and move on to we see a GTB question. I think the top 10, I think Notre Dame at 7 is pretty, you can move them up a couple of spots. But like I said, nitpicking, I get it. I get the love for Alabama based upon the history. The Ole Miss, that Notre Dame should definitely be 6 in my opinion. I would not, for no reason, would I ever put Penn State in front of Michigan. I don't care who the head coach is.
Never.
I don't care if it's the crying Jim Harbaugh lover himself. I don't care who the head coach is. Penn State, man, just put them in their usual spot, which is like 10, 11. Dude, that's who they are. They start off on the road at West Virginia, who, by the way, I've talked to players. I don't know how it is now, but I've heard several times from former University of Miami players that the place they hated to play the most was in Morgantown. They said, dude, any type of alcohol bottle you can imagine would get thrown their way as they came onto the field. Batteries, he was like, whatever you can think of, it can happen. It can happen. And Quincy Wilson, who was a running back for West Virginia, who was Otis Wilson's son, the former Chicago Bear, conversations with him because he spends his time between Chicago and down in Florida, but he pretty much confirmed it. Like, yeah, it's pretty bad being a visitor coming into Morgantown. So is it possible that Penn State could actually lose that game in West Virginia? Probably not, but it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me to start the season. Florida State, Georgia Tech to start the season off. Left for me, that's a game. That's a trap game. If a first game could be a trap game, if I am Florida State and Mike Norvell, man, we better be ready to roll. We better be ready to roll because Georgia Tech, a very good young offensive team led by a very good, talented quarterback that Notre Dame is going to have to deal with on the road. So coming out the chute, that's a tough task for Florida State. That's a tough task, especially with the turnover they have on the roster. And then who is DJ going to be at quarterback for Florida State? But I still think Florida State, they're talented enough that the number 10 ranking warrants that. Missouri, sleeper team, in my opinion, bro. Sleeper team, in my opinion. They return a lot on offense. They do have some pass rush to have to replace defensively, but they've recruited very well, and their wide receiver core is absolutely phenomenal, led by Luther Burden, Illinois dude, by the way. I think Missouri could. I would flip Missouri and Ole Miss. I would.
You pick Missouri over Ole Miss?
Yes, I will put Missouri in the top 7. I will bump Notre Dame to 6, Missouri at 7, and then I will move Ole Miss back to that 11th spot where Missouri is at.
Missouri just got hot, so I can understand how they put Ole Miss above them. However, Missouri is a team that can sneak up on a Georgia, sneak up on a Alabama, a team in a situation. So it's one of those things that I think the season is wide open, especially in the SEC, with the top teams playing teams that are, consistently relevant or looked at as competition to them. So this will be great regular season play, which brings the idea of why the SEC is a good conference.
Utah is 12. I don't even respect their schedule, bro. I won't know who Utah is because of
Utah.
Yeah, I mean they're not in the Pac-12 anymore, so I don't know. Can they go undefeated and sneak into the back end of the playoff? Possibly. LSU starts off on the road at USC. It's probably going to be one of the most intriguing games outside of Notre Dame, Texas A&M, that opening that first weekend out there. I think that's a Monday night. The Notre Dame
Texas A&M game is intriguing.
Sunday night. No. It's intriguing because it's an SEC game. The national do, because it's an SEC team, yes. The money line, Notre Dame started out a favorite. It went to even. Now Vegas is, because Vegas baited cats. That's what they did. The money line started out with Notre Dame as a favorite. Then all of a sudden, with all of this noise and everything throughout the summer, they made it an even bet. And now you're going to start to see the bet and the line go back up with Notre Dame being favored. So it is what it is. And like I said, coming up, we're going to tell you why this Notre Dame game might end up being very, very, or easier than most people think for Notre Dame. Lucky Lefty podcast. Let's speed through it, Left. LSU at 13. I can see that. The Nussmeier kid has a chance to be good. They're definitely going to have talent at wide receiver, even though they're replacing 2 elite first-round wide receivers. Clemson at 14. Can't wait to talk to Kate Gibbs about that. Tennessee at 15. I actually like Tennessee. You know what? I want to see if Nico is worth the wait. You played against him out there in California, coached against him, shall I say, Left. You've seen him up close and personal. Now I'm ready to see if he's worth all the buzz. I'm very intrigued by watching Nico Iamaleava and what he does at Tennessee. Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma is going to be one of those teams that in November has a shot. Even though they're in the SEC, they have a shot to get into the college football playoff. Dude, what Mike Gundy does consistently, just finding a way, Big 12 champs last year. Not participants in the Big 12 championship. They lost to Texas in that game. Kansas State, they lose Will Howard to Ohio State, but they have the local kid that Notre Dame tried to snatch in recruiting late in the game. Very talented. He's going to be the quarterback there. So, and Kansas State just a program that is just solid. So I don't have a problem with 18. Our boy Roosevelt, your Miami squad is ranked 19th, my brother. 19th for a reason. That's a gift, considering that your coach is sub 500 in his first 2 years. And then my city gifted you the top 2 defensive line. So if you can't get it done this year, Mario Cristobal, it's time for you to go. Yeah. It's time for you to go. I'm sorry. Texas A&M at 20, yeah, they'll be out of the top 25 after the first game. Arizona at 21, like I said, I thought they would be higher. Definitely if Jed Fish was still there, they would be higher. Kansas at 22. Kansas lost some key pieces. I want to see how the recruiting and development fills the holes that they have. One of their key pieces is a very impressive young defensive end that's playing very well for the Chicago Bears in camp. USC has a chance, man. This is Brian Kelly against USC once again. Brian Kelly, late in his career at Notre Dame, had success against Notre Dame. And you would expect LSU to go out there and handle USC. Man, dude, I just feel like if that secondary hasn't been solved at LSU, the wide receivers and Miller Moss at USC might give them problems in the Coliseum, bro, on that Sunday night. They might. They really might. North Carolina State, the Wolfpack, I think the Wolfpack might end up inside the top 20 at the end of the season. I really do.
Really?
I really do. Yeah, I do. I think they have enough talent, and if the quarterback can come over and really solidify the quarterback and not even be – because their defense is going to be really good. If they could just put up consistently 28 to 30 points a game, North Carolina State's going to be a problem for that ACC championship. Iowa doesn't deserve to be in the top 25. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Lucky Lefty podcast. So let's talk about it. August 31st, Notre Dame sets foot in College Station. And this is what I wanted to get to. You remember early in that Duke game, if you go watch the beginning of the Duke game, when Mike Elko is the head coach, Riley Leonard is the quarterback, Notre Dame could not finish drives early on inside the red zone. They settled for field goals. Notre Dame should have been up 17 to 20 points. Easily. You had Rico with a drop pass inside the 5 that he probably would have turned the corner and ran in. I believe they missed the field goal. It's just so many opportunities for Notre Dame to kind of put – because the way the defense was playing, if they had forced Duke early to abandon the run, because that's how Duke got back in the game, the running game. It wasn't the passing game. They allowed Duke to hang around. They could stick to the running game. Riley Leonard started to make plays. They started to run the ball on Notre Dame defense. And the next thing you know, 2 drives, and all of a sudden Duke's up. I think the same situation is going to be available in this Texas A&M game. Why do I say that? I spent the last week watching multiple Texas A&M podcasts. I spent the last week watching all of their press conferences with Mike Elko, the new DC, the new offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, came over from Kansas State. Everybody's talking about Connor Wegman, what he did at the Manning passing camp, along with Riley Leonard, how good he looked. He could be a possible first-round pick if everything goes well. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, they have big wide receivers, but they don't create a lot of separation. And this is not me talking. This is the Texas A&M side saying, look, they're big, but there are questions to be answered in the passing game. Can Connor Wegman even be healthy? Can he be healthy? Because he has a history of being injured. Then they're starting right tackle is moved to left guard. They have a new right tackle that was injured last year. How is he going to fare? And then they have a brand new left tackle. So their offensive line, as much as people want to talk about Notre Dame's offensive line, look, they're trying to figure out their offensive line as well. And the offensive line wasn't good last year. They just weren't. On top of that, they had the worst secondary in the SEC last year. And they supplemented, not via recruiting, they supplemented via the transfer portal with guys that weren't starters at the place that they came from. So they struggle and have question marks in the secondary. They struggle and have question marks at the wide receiver position. And they just lost Reuben Owens.
Yeah.
So now they lost one of their biggest offensive weapons, and he was the backup running back. And, you know, traditionally, it's not the starting running back that gives Notre Dame problems. It's the backup running back that usually gives Notre Dame fits. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm telling you. Notre Dame is going to be able to stifle the A&M offense early on. If Notre Dame allows Texas A&M to hang around, it's going to be a problem.
I still don't think they can beat them.
It's going to be a problem. They ended up beating Duke. And I'm not predicting, and this is not my prediction, saying that Notre Dame is going to just blow Texas A&M out. Notre Dame is going to have the opportunity to make this game easier than most people think it's going to be. And it's going to be up to them to make the requisite plays in the red zone and when given the opportunity. When they have that one-on-one post route and Chris Mitchell is 5 yards behind the DB, you have to hit it.
Yeah, we got to hit the open plays and put the dagger in them early, or it's just
early on.
It's going to make it a tough win. We're not going to lose. It's just going to be a tough win.
Yeah. And that Texas A&M lost a running back. Texas lost 2 of their top 3 running backs. I don't know what they're doing down there in Texas, but they need to take it easy because the running backs are dropping like flies. So, Left, I just really think, and this is where your boy Riley Leonard not having to carry anything kind of goes back to what you said on Monday. If he just makes the plays when they're there, if he just makes the big plays when they're there, Notre Dame shouldn't have a problem offensively. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. And I have 3 boxes that need to be checked early on in this game. 3 boxes that weren't checked last year. This is not, for those people, this is not a narrative-changing game. Beating Texas A&M on the road won't change the national narrative about Notre Dame. It won't. Maybe it extends their ability to recruit Texas even harder and have even more success. That might be huge because there'll be a lot of the best Texas talent in the high school ranks at this game, probably visiting on the Texas A&M side. So you can make an impact with them by coming away with a victory. But that's not really what I'm talking about. Notre Dame, we asked them last year, Left, what do we say? When you're facing these teams from the MAC and these bad teams in the ACC, we don't want to see any more fourth quarter games. We don't want to see that. This is Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman delivered last year offensively. Despite all the difficulties and the questions with Sam Hartman, they delivered on that. They blew teams out. They had terrible first quarters. They turned the ball over in the red zone against Wake Forest early, squandered opportunities, and still smacked them by like 31 points. Just smacked them. Second string came in and scored. Third string came in and did work. So they answered that call. Man, now, offensively, can you go on the road and not get off to a bad start? They did it at Clemson. They did it at Louisville. And that has been consistent. They did that in North Carolina previously on the road at Drake May's first start against them. Marcus Freeman and this team, they can answer that major question. Under his leadership as the head coach, they have struggled on the road, especially early in games. They need to answer that right off the bat at Texas A&M. First 2 drives, they need to put up points. I don't care if it's 10 points, touchdown, field goal. First 2 drives, come out, put up points, answer that to let us know you can have a team prepared early on going on the road in a hostile environment. We need to see that. What do you think would be the difference? You're on mute, bro.
But I think that's why it's important, is because we need to see what that environment of adversity looks like. We know from a paper matchup to matchup, we won't be extremely worried, or we're not threatened by what they have against what we're doing. However, that environment, it being a tough place to play, first game of the season, the hype and momentum will be there. How do we handle that with a first-year quarterback in this offense? But also just how we handle, the management of what that road game environment feels like. The energy is going to be there, and this team is going to come out playing a little more inspired naturally because it's Notre Dame. But it's the first game of the season. They're itching to get out there. So we'll probably see some of their best football early. It may not be as efficient or as technical, but it's going to be wild and chaotic. They're going to be running around, screaming and yelling. So how does Riley Leonard with a new car handle a road like this? It's a fast car and get you from point A to point B pretty quick, but you got to manage these curves. You got to be able to avoid these potholes. How do you cruise when it's the what do they call that, waterboard? Not waterboarding, but
I was about to say pause, bro. Pause. Where we going with this?
No, what's it? Water. When you skidding on the water, you don't feel it. Whatever that's called. Hydroplaning. Gotcha. How do you handle that?
Yeah.
So it's just his ability to manage the tough environment where we know now that communication is a thing he's working on. Just imagine that. You got 4 months to prepare to go and talk to these guys and communicate at a master level in front of 100,000.
Yeah.
Forget that you can run around. Forget that you won the Manning camp. You in camp right now talking about you still trying to get communication down. That's the toughest challenge. Now try communication when you can't talk to nobody. And you just learning things. That's where the challenge exists. That doesn't show up on a stat sheet, doesn't show up in the film room. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge for Riley Leonard that first game.
We got a couple of GTB questions. Let's get to them right now. Talking about the matchup against Texas A&M and what needs to be checked. What boxes need to be checked? The first box we went to, we have 2 more to get to. Man, you have to prove that you can have a team prepared on the road, Marcus Freeman. You have to prove that. Absolutely. Indy Milton fan, does Malik still think Bama is a 5-loss team this year?
Until proven otherwise. How do you not think that? I don't know. I think we have a good shot.
Sean Stewart, GTB question. What personnel do you like to run with in college football 25?
Anything with 2 tight ends, man, that's my go-to. Hard to stop.
Shotgun, single back for me. 11 personnel, shotgun, or either single back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. That 2 tight end, yeah, in certain situations, I'll go to the tight formations, but yeah, open it up for me and give me the option to do either or based upon what I see. That's me.
Okay.
That's me.
You give you some options.
Yeah, that's me. I invite the blitz. Please blitz. By all means, please. Because if I see it, and most of the time I'm definitely going to pre-snap diagnose it. Oh, it's a wrap.
Oh, you got the audibles.
Oh, for sure. I am that person, bro. I customize my audibles. I hit pause at the beginning of the game, go and set up my audibles, and I'm like, all right, we're good. I told you, man, I'll run 4 plays all game. 4 plays.
Oh my
Same
God!
play.
Yeah, that guy.
I will wear you
The
out.
4-play all game guy. Oh
I will
goodness.
wear you out.
Oh no, Sean, why you play like that?
Wear you out, bro.
Why do you play like
I'm the same way in chess, bro. I just wear you down. I just wear. Eventually, you're gonna make a mistake. Eventually, you're gonna make a mistake. I just wear
That's
you
how
down.
you do it. You just own them until they mess up.
And wear you down. Just wear you down. That's it. That's it. That's it. Because I can always open up. But why open up when I can keep it simple?
That's
Give me 5 plays. Off the 5 plays, I'll audible off of those joints. Man, that's pretty much what? 20
That's
plays.
That's right there, right?
That's 20 plays. Y'all, you guys will see when me and Malik on our Twitch page, when we go at it finally. Oh, you'll see. You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. John Massey with the GTB question. Who do you guys think is going to be starting? I'm assuming he's talking quarterback. I'm assuming. Specify if that's not what you're talking about. I'm assuming. Well, we know who Left wants to play. Start. Yeah, it's no secret, Left. We already know who you want to start. You already know. It's cool. You rock with your boys, man. I think it's actually really admirable that you rock with your ND boys, dude. Over transfer.
Why is that the case? Why do you think that's the case?
No, because you were the same way when they went and got Sam Hartman. You were the exact same way. You asked the same question. How much better is he?
Was I right about Sam Hartman?
Hey, you got your kudos from me at the end of the season. You got your kudos from me. You get no argument from the kid. None at all. No argument from me, bro. You get no argument from me. None at all, bro. I'm just saying. Some people might not see it that way. But I think it's very apparent that as a Notre Dame alum and former Notre Dame quarterback, you pull for the guys that were recruited, committed, developed. I mean, those are your guys.
I agree with things that make sense. It's got to make sense.
So the second check mark.
Wait, tell me this. Okay, if you have a company.
Yes.
And you got an employee that's been there for 10 years, know the ins and outs, got the keys to the building.
Okay.
And you're looking for a new manager.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to go outside of that and hire somebody else just because they got a good resume, or are you going to go within the building and get an in-house hire? What makes sense for the progress of your company?
Someone that knows the logistics of everything.
So in-house guy.
I mean that is, we're just talking about the whole universal thing, right? With Lucien literally making his son, putting his son over Warner Brothers, the music side, when he really hasn't. I mean, he had his own company where he signed like Trippie Redd and a couple of, mid-level artists, but now him and his son will both be the heads of pretty much 70% of the market share of the music world. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's nepotism, but I can't be mad. But I mean, there are people that literally have put 20 years in that deserve that spot, have a better resume than his son. But who am I to say, it's a bad idea for you and your son to run 70% of the music world?
But that means that we know Riley Leonard previously. We don't know Riley from a can of paint. It just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't trust with the liability of a guy learning on the fly as opposed to a guy that knows the ins and outs. You just to take that concept and put it anywhere. So I don't think it's any different. He may be more talented, but how can you be more talented and you not know what to do? You can be more talented and you don't know what to do. You look worse.
Yeah. John Massey said he was talking about punt return and kick return. Jaden Greathouse, Jaden Mickey. I'm trying to think who else. Those were the 3 guys when we got access to practice that were really back there for punts. The first 2. It was Jaden Mickey, Jaden Greathouse, and KK, if I'm not mistaken. on punt return. Kick return, we really haven't seen any kick return. So I would assume some of the same. I would assume kick return, because last year it was Jadarian. You saw Jadarian back there. You saw Jeremiah back there. You could see Aeneas back there on kick return. I definitely think you could see Aeneas Williams back there on kick return. Jaden Harrison would definitely be back there on kick return. So if I had to bet, I would say Jaden Harrison, combination of maybe one of the other running backs, kick return, and then punt return. It looks like Jaden Greathouse, Jaden Mickey, and a host of others competing for that position. Spadell, our boy, super chat, my guys, let's get ready to rumble in this Texas heat and wear these boys down. Malik wants Angeli. Either way, let's go Irish. Eric, as always, continue to be better.
I just want what makes sense. Angeli makes sense. I'm not saying Angeli, you saw it in his face. You saw the body language. You saw the de facto leadership. Now, the thing I don't understand is that, I know we can win this game. How we win this game is what matters to me. Because it's a pageant contest at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
We have to look like the best in 12. We don't have to be the best yet. We just got to look the best. And that first game is going to mean a lot because our next chance to prove that is down the line, somewhere in October, late October. People are not going to watch our games after the first game because it's going to be other exciting games because we should be dominating that much. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that. So this first checkbox was having your team ready. Can Marcus Freeman prove that he can take a team on the road and they can come out on fire, not flat, put points up early, get stops early on defense, get turnovers early, and just seize control on the road? I don't think that's been proven in a big matchup. Marcus Freeman, you need to check that box. Also, the box they need to check, look, it's fair. You need to check that offensive line box. This offensive line, look, offensive line talking real greasy. There's one unit that's been talking real greasy in these press conferences, and it's the offensive line. Hey, we're going to be the explosive. Multiple offensive linemen. They just lost the starting left tackle. They still, yeah, we're going to be explosive. Oh, we're going to make plays. We're going to put up points, and we're going to run the ball. Oh, we're going to run the ball. Man, they're confident. Marcus Freeman said he has full confidence in his offensive line. You heard the defensive lineman talking about going up against the offensive line. It's a big question for everybody else, but everyone seems comfortable. But that box has to be checked, not only for that game, but for the remainder of the season. That box has to be checked because it's one of the biggest question marks left.
Our size alone has me convinced that we'll be explosive. The toolage and what Rudolph has, and combined with the rest of leftover East End knowledge, the amount of film and resources involved with what the O-line has, I'm not worried. It's just a new favorite player I got to have on the O-line.
Yeah. Let's see. John Massey, the GTB, Love needs to answer this 180 pivot he did on Steve after 22 season. He said he should transfer, and the room is even better now. Explain yourself, sir. Clutch Sports. He works for Clutch Sports. I'm telling you. He's learning from the best.
Last year, because Steve knows.
No, he got better. He got markedly better.
Steve knows this is his last year because we're phasing out the style of quarterback that he is. He's like, this is all I got because.
That's a good point.
We're gaining a new style of quarterback. If you can't go from talent.
He's a Tommy style quarterback.
Tommy style of guy.
You're right, Left. That's a good
The imperfect guy. We're getting guys that are master throwers of the football at an early stage. That's not the progression they need going into their first year. So this is all or nothing. Drew Pine's last year was last year.
Yeah.
Or whenever he was at Notre Dame, it's like either you get in or you're done because of who we were recruiting. So with that being said, it was never – I said if he wanted a fair opportunity because I knew they were going They're paying $2 million for a kid. They're going to play him. They can give a rat's butt about how good you're doing. When that brother come in on that $2 million check, he's going to play, hurt or not. That's why I was saying Steve should transfer, because he's going to gain all of this ability and confidence, and they're not even going to give him a chance where he can go to Rutgers and go crazy for a year. You know, you go to Rutgers and go crazy. So that's when I said Steve should transfer in those circumstances. With him staying and the confidence of what the coaches have in Steve, you listen to what the Steve coaches say about Steve, they only say good things. They don't say anything of a negative or something that he needs to work on or something that is a glaring thing that he doesn't do well. They say, man, Steve do what he's supposed to do. He's consistent. He knows how to communicate. He knows what's going on. Steve will tell you, he said he's talked to everybody. He was boys with Sam Hartman carrying his lunch in his backpack every day to class, and he said he's sick of that. He said he wants some of that main character energy. And Riley getting too much attention. You already saw what Steve said about the room. He said it's a good group of guys, period. Next question. And they talking about no. He said, you want me to highlight who the guys I'm competing with? No, they all good. How about that? They all good. So
Steve was a little abrasive with the quarterback.
Yeah, he's like, man, why we y'all see how they doing me? You know, that's what he wanted to say. Y'all see how they doing me here? Sick of this. So yeah, he had nothing to lose. I like guys like that. Nothing to lose guys, takes every rep seriously. You know, but not saying that Riley won't do well, but I think Steve deserves opportunity. And that's just more of the heart and the things you can't quantify on paper that matter in team chemistry and that matter when the trenches and the things get hot. I really believe Steve will go into this game feeling more confident than Riley. Even though Riley may have all the reps, I still think Steve, if he had to be asked to go in there, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I doubt that Steve will be more ready now than he would be if he was with Jack Cohn and all of that coming in. So,
yeah, we got our boy KG in the background. So, you know, KG is not for the Riley Leonard disrespect. I'm sure you'll have some things.
It's not disrespect on Riley. It's just like we know Riley's strengths and we know where Notre Dame needs to be better at, and it's two different directions. It's just two different directions. We can't deny that. And to say that somehow Riley just becomes some elite passer just because he comes to Notre Dame is I'm not going to lie to myself. You know, the numbers are the numbers. Yeah, he got hurt when he was doing well, but it wasn't like he was elite to start out with.
Boy, you are something. You are really a KG. You know, we're gonna get to you right after this break. KG, you have to realize, bro. I figured out what the deal was. KG, he's just real loyal to his ND original quarterbacks. That's what it is. Any original quarterback that got recruited and committed to Notre Dame, that's who he's for. All these transfers and stuff left, he's just not feeling. It is what it is. It is what it is, left. You getting real good training at Clutch Sports over there. Y'all
Riley Leonard is going to be good for us because of everything we got going on.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like a trust fund baby. Yeah. He's the benefactor of previous success that trickles down to him, and he balls out, and everybody be like, "Damn, dude, you killing the game."
Oh man, yeah. Look, our boy Ken Gibbs locked on ACC, locked on college football. Up next, hey, the one box you got to check early down in Texas A&M. Market streaming, you got to have a team prepared on the road. We haven't seen it. You got to check that box. Hey, offensive line. Yeah, you got to show up. Biggest question mark right now. Check that box. Last but not least, hey, act like it. Ranked 7th in the AP. Act like it. Finally live up to the hype. Finally live up to the hype as a Notre Dame team from start to finish. Act like it. Check that box. Go down there, take care of business, roll the easy part of your schedule, and go into that top 10 matchup that we see with Florida State in November and USC ending the season. Sounds easy.
Wait.
What's up? Somebody said something crazy?
You said DJ Uunga-Gale is leading the team to top 10?
Bro, I just said based upon the rankings, brother. I didn't say that. I said just based. Man, we got
DJ Uanga delayed. Led a team that was top 10. I was just checking.
We'll be back. Lucky Lefty podcast. You already know we.
I was just checking.
Different.
What's up, family? The merch shop is finally here. Lucky Lefty Network merch shop. We got it all. From the shirts to the hoodies to the hats to the nitty gritties. Come here right now. Shop with us. Come get the swag because you know, if anything else, we spin it different. You see the gritty. You see how we get down. It's elite.
It's only up from here. Let's get busy.
Lucky Lefty podcast. Three's Company. You already know what it is. John Davis, Malik, ZAIRE, Ken Gibbs. Locked on ACC, locked on college football. Best in the biz. We're about to talk ACC opponents and the ACC preview right here. We're about to give it to you, raw and uncut. But KG, you were in the background as we ended the last segment, and I saw your eyes get big. You heard the disrespect. I'm going to give you a chance before we get into it. Yeah, it was a little disrespectful.
Let me tell you something, bro.
It was a little disrespectful.
Malik, I hope that all the folks in your family are living long, prosperous lives. And you know, there's a woman that's very special in my life that I need to quote when I'm talking to you, okay? I'm going to quote my grandmother, Miss Doris Cheeks. He need to leave that dope alone. You understand? He need to leave that dope alone. This man called a Duke football player a trust fund baby. That's like calling somebody from the projects a trust fund baby. That's like calling LeBron James Sr. a trust fund baby. Talking about, look at all that talent that he got made from the hood. That's a trust fund. The man was homeless. Duke football, a trust fund? Are we?
No, he became a trust fund coming to Notre Dame. He went from a situation like you said. It's not perfect over at Duke. He know he was working with the leftovers and scrap foods that Notre Dame didn't accept to Notre Dame. We understand that. But when he come to Notre Dame, he comes to a land of riches, the pots of gold, where he's looking around like, man, I can't lose.
Let me tell you something. You know where he could look around and say, I can lose? At Duke. You know what he didn't do a lot at Duke? Lose. He didn't do it often. Why didn't he do it often, Sean? Was the running game not amazing? Well, they had 1/3 team all-ACC running back one time. Oh, in that season, he wasn't healthy most of the season. So the other season, I'm sure he had a running back that scratched the all-ACC team, right? Nope. Mateo Durant and them 40 carries a game were gone by the time Riley Leonard became the quarterback. And you're going to sit here and say that he's a trust fund?
Yes, absolutely. Because guess what? The first thing you said about Riley Leonard is the first thing that our receiver said about Riley Leonard yesterday. He can run the football. That's the highlight. That's what Gino Gaduli said. He can make explosive plays with his legs. Listen, Notre Dame doesn't need that. That's not where we're headed, into offensive dynasty and record books. And we're not even recruiting like that. We don't recruit nobody like Riley Leonard. We're recruiting C.J. Carr, a Kenny Minchie, a Deuce Knight. We're recruiting on a different category. To get a Riley Leonard is fitting the model that we've already had. Yes, the first thing you highlight was Riley Leonard running the football. Absolutely. That's what he's good at. Y'all want
to know why Three's Company been on delay for so long? Because Big Steve and Jelly Lobby has held us back. I'm not afraid to speak the truth. I'm going to drain the South Bend swamp. I'm going to drain the South Bend swamp, and we're going to tell the truth and shame the devil about Riley Leonard. We're going to tell the truth and shame the devil. Let me just ask you this, and I'm going to leave it right here. If you can name me, and I'm not kidding you right now, if you can name me 2 players, just 2, in terms of pass catchers that Riley Leonard played with at Duke, that you know they either are playing on Sundays now or will be playing on Sundays shortly, I'll wait. Just two, any 2.
None.
You got one? You got one for me?
I don't have one, but
so you're telling me Now, the man who played with, we have as many pro wide receivers in the chat as Riley Leonard had at Duke. Congratulations, Lucky Lefty Podcast Nation.
Okay,
Congratulations,
now let's be honest. 1% of the college football goes to the league. We can talk about that. The next thing we talk about is the fact that, okay, that's fine. But we're talking about a guy that's at 2,700. He's coming to Notre Dame with new receivers that got some cachet, receivers that can do some things. How much more better is he from 2,700 to what? Are you saying it's over 3,500? Does he have
I would be comfortable with that. If he's healthy, I would be comfortable with saying he's going to go for 32, 35, somewhere in there. I'll be very
That's not his game. That's not his game.
You don't think that's his game because you're unfamiliar.
You told us what did you tell us his game was when you first said? You said his game was running the football.
I said he can be dynamic. The young man is a dual threat. He is a dual threat. You know what dual means? I know you got that Notre Dame education. That's some of the best education in the world. You know what dual means. It means
Aiden Daniels was a dual threat. 4,200 yards is a dual threat. 2,700 yards is not a dual threat.
Let me tell you something. If he was throwing to Malik Neighbors, hold on now. If he was throwing to the players that Jaden Daniels was throwing to, I don't think he got. I mean this very genuinely. I don't think Riley Leonard. I think he had one guy that could have walked on at LSU. One. I think Calhoun may have been able to walk on. Maybe, possibly on the down year for LSU, you get himself a scholarship. But with that wide receiver core that Jaden Daniels had, my brother in Christ, that's a trust fund, baby. That's a guy who walked into everything being perfect, who left a situation where he was throwing to some guy, he left the situation where he was going to throw to some guy. Everybody was talking about trading for him. Is it Brandon Ayuk or something like that? Wasn't that his first wide receiver number one? And meanwhile, you're calling the guy who has played with less, you know what? I don't even want to say as many pro players as Lucky Lefty Nation, because I've seen some pretty notable Notre Dame guys in here. And SHAUN done told me about some of the high cachet guys y'all got to listen to the show. So I know for a fact, Lucky Lefty Nation got more NFL wide receivers than Riley Leonard played with. I know that to be true, okay? And we're going to sit here and say, oh, Jaden Daniels is a true dual threat, not him. If you give him Jaden Daniels weapons, if you give him that LSU system, I think that he can do what he did to a T. He'll do 90% of it.
Riley does well without number one receivers. You know why? Because Riley Leonard can focus on what he does well, and that's run the football. He don't need number one wide receivers. That's why
I can't believe I'm hearing the quarterback say he can do well without a number one receiver. This is crazy.
He had, like you said, he's had postmen, he's had college professors, he's had lunch ladies at receiver, like you said, and he's been top, and he's been goated as a top 5 quarterback next year with all of that. Because guess why? His strength of his game hasn't been throwing the football. You don't got guys to throw to.
Do you know how crazy it is to say the only position that he's had that's even comparable, and even this is not really the same realm, but it's comparable to Notre Dame, is his offensive line? Because he had multiple guys who are all ACC and multiple guys who are probably going to go on to have long careers in the NFL in terms of Graham Barton and Monk and company over there. That's it. That's the only position group he had, and I wouldn't even put them up against the Notre Dame offensive line. Like I said, Miss Chief, my grandmother, I know she's going to be listening to this. I love you, Granny. She ain't got to call me to tell me leave that dope alone, because I know what I seen. I seen it with my own 2 eyes. I know that when you talk about the level of talent from Duke to Notre Dame, it's not the same. It's not the same. Even with Elko having that program rolling at its highest clip ever. The stadium is called Wallace Wade Stadium. They had never won as many games with a first-year quarterback and a first-year head coach, rather, except when they had Wallace Wade, the guy that the damn stadium was named after there. And he wasn't the first-time head coach because he coached at Alabama before he went to the war, came back and coached at Duke. So I'm trying to tell you, Malik, you don't understand the level of poverty that young man came from.
Okay, fair.
The words of future, poverty. I got my name from poverty. That's what Riley Leonard did. He made his name in poverty.
What was his run pass percentage at Duke with these receivers that you're talking about?
Excuse me?
His run pass percentage at Duke with these same receivers you chatting about.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know his exact percentages, but what I am going to sit here and say
that I know it was 70-30, the way you describe their receivers.
What I am going to say that I know for a fact is that at the end of the day, if I look at Duke as a team as they were constructed last year, and I say, what's the ideal quarterback? A field general has no place on that team. I'm sorry to tell you. I understand that offensive line was good. I understand that they had a good running game for a majority of the year, but a quarterback that cannot do something with his legs will get that team cooked and killed.
Okay, that's fine. That's for Duke. But for Notre Dame, we're at the stage where I would prefer a Stetson Bennett type over a Riley Leonard type.
This man said Stetson Bennett.
You talking about 6 touchdowns in the national championship, Stetson Bennett? Yes, sir.
I don't think that you. And here's the thing, Malik. You know I love you to death. You know I do. You know I do. We never going to agree on Riley Leonard until the end of the season when y'all are sitting up there in the playoff and you like, KG was right. We got us one.
But that's where we start the evaluation though, because at the end of the day, Riley Leonard's going to have a good season being on a great team. Like in our schedule is even better.
Listen, I want you to think about this from the most genuine standpoint possible. How is it fair to Riley Leonard that his evaluation starts at the playoff? And yet, even if we were to say top 12, how many top 12 finishes does Notre Dame have in the past 5 years?
It's the same. Because it's directly correlated and tied to Marcus Freeman.
Hold on.
Marcus Freeman not getting in that playoffs. He's getting looked at crazy.
I'm just asking, how many top 12 finishes does Notre Dame have in the past 5 years?
Notre Dame doesn't care about the regular season anymore. That's our problem.
I'm asking you, and you're not answering me. See, this is why I'm drain the swamp. See, this is what the swamp do. They try to mucky it up. They try to throw all this mess in there. I'm asking you a clear and direct question. How many top 12 finishes has Notre Dame had in the past 5 years?
We don't celebrate.
I know it's one for sure. I know it's one for sure in 20.
We don't celebrate top 12 finishes. We don't hang the banners up in division titles like Kirk Cousins. We don't do that.
And this is my point. So you've had one in the last 5 years, and yet you believe the talent to be so high level this year that this young man's evaluation won't even start at the fact that he's getting you to a height that you've been to once in 5 years. He has to go beyond that. See,
yes.
I'm gonna just say this. And
if I paid $2 million for a transfer quarterback to believe for these playoffs that I can do it, because think about it, we can win the same amount of games with the guys we have on the roster right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now.
Interesting.
Right now.
So how many did y'all win with Cone?
Oh, enough to get to 10-4 or 11.
Would you make the playoffs that year?
It wasn't the playoffs.
If the draft was 12 teams, would Notre Dame have made it? That's all I'm asking.
We were in the rebuild. Jack Cohn was an emergency a branch quarterback. He was supposed to branch Tyler Buckner.
You're right. That was the emergency guy. Let's talk about another guy that y'all paid a lot of money. But that Hartman kid.
Hartman was contracted for 3 games. Contracted literally. It was like, we'll give you $2 million, but we need 3 games done. He got 1/3 of it done.
They were top 12 in the 2020 and 21 polls.
And this is my point. I'm okay with setting a bar that, like, if we're talking about, and this is no disrespect to Notre Dame, because y'all know how much I revere the brand. Although I grew up a Michigan fan, hated Notre Dame all my life. You don't hate teams. I pitied Michigan State growing up. I didn't hate those guys. I pitied. I legitimately looked at them and was like, oh, those poor little guys. Oh, I hope they figure it out one day. I hated Notre Dame because that's the brand that y'all had. I hated Brady Quinn and Jimmy Clausen and all those guys. I didn't like none of them. Didn't like Golden Tate. None of them. I didn't like none of them. Okay? And I'm telling you right now that it's fair to put the expectation of your evaluation doesn't start to the playoff if you're Alabama, if you're Georgia, if you're a team that has become your standard to a level where it's like, hey, there is not a doubt in our mind where this team is every year. With all due respect to Notre Dame, I believe that they're headed in the right trajectory. I believe that they're headed towards that, hey, we're perennially going to be in the playoff. They're not there right now. So to say that your evaluation of him is, I don't give a damn nothing that you do in the regular season matters. I'm sorry to tell you, Notre Dame at this point in time is not that type of program. I am sorry. That is
Notre Dame is not going to sit there and be okay with Riley Leonard not getting in the playoffs. Notre Dame is not going to be okay with Riley Leonard getting bounced in the first round. That's not what we contracted him for.
So if Riley Leonard takes you undefeated to the playoff, you lose the first round. You're telling me you look at the season as a disappointment. Come on now.
Yes, absolutely. With the schedule we have this year, with year 3 in Marcus Freeman program, and we go bounce first round, Marcus Freeman probably won't even – he would be on the hottest seat. Because guess what? Riley get the lead. Marcus Freeman might go with
Marcus Freeman will be on the hottest seat after an undefeated regular season.
And lose in the first round of the playoffs? Absolutely.
No, that's hyperbolic, Left. That's hyperbolic, Left.
Lose in the first round?
I will say this. Let me just say this.
In the first round.
I think both of you have valid points. I think KG on the surface is correct. But KG, I think people have gotten to a point with this program where they need a narrative that we know we are tier 2. We know we're a tier 2 program. We know that next step needs to be taken. The only way you make that step is beating Ohio State at home. That changes the narrative. There are no regular season narrative changing games on the schedule for Riley Leonard. There just aren't.
None.
There just aren't.
None that will be memorable to be like, man, I'm glad we have Riley Leonard on this team.
Beating Texas A&M is not going to do that. That's not.
Here's my thing. I agree with you that there is not a singular moment, but it's a lot like, I like when I see couples at the airport, when I see old married couples and all that. I see somebody with a ring on, look like they've been married for a while. I ask them, how long you and your wife been married? How long you and your husband been married? And when did you know she was the one? When did you know he was the one? Sometimes I get an answer about a defining moment like, my mother was sick and she quit her job to take care of him. He was this guy that he got every woman he wanted, but when he saw me, he cut off everybody. He never talked to nobody else but me for the next 40 years. That happens sometimes. But the answer I get more often than not, there wasn't a singular moment. They just showed up and did what they were supposed to do repetitively. I don't believe that Riley Leonard has to have this amazing, they're playing somebody in week 10 that's undefeated, that's a top 10 opponent type of game for this season to be a success for him. If he shows up and does what he's supposed to do every game, and here's the funnest part about this. We're talking about this as if he cannot win a playoff game. I firmly believe that he can. I firmly believe that with the talent that y'all have to surround him, he can and most likely will win at least one playoff
And that's
game.
what I'm addressing, the expectation of getting Riley Leonard does what for Notre Dame. Because without Riley Leonard, the expectation on the season didn't change. It didn't boost us 3 or 4 game victory. It didn't lose us 3 or 4 games. Having Riley Leonard as a transfer kept us at the same number of wins. So it doesn't show me of his value until you get to uncharted territory where there's a game that we're saying, thank God we got Riley Leonard. There's not a game on the schedule that I believe this year with the expectation of us already going undefeated in the regular season that I'm like, man, thank God we transferred a $2 million quarterback because without him, we wouldn't beat XYZ team in the regular season.
So just to be clear, let's just say we live in an alternate timeline, right? We like Deadpool. We just hopping across all the time. Then we end up in a timeline where Riley Leonard's never born. Everything else in this universe is the same. Riley Leonard's just never born. Steve Angeli is your starting quarterback. You telling me a undefeated regular season is a disappointment? Or undefeated regular season, first round playoff loss is a disappointment? Stop it. Don't you lie to me like that.
Yes.
Don't you wish that evil on me,
Marcus
Richard
Freeman
Bobby.
missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. In year 3, this is his team. Is year 3 in his program. He's expected to be in the playoffs and expected to win at least the first 2 games.
So,
absolutely.
In your opinion, Steve Angeli will go undefeated regular season, lose in the playoffs, and people will be disappointed with him. That's what you're saying.
With Steve,
yes,
as an individual, they wouldn't have the expectation they have for Riley. Getting Riley Leonard is, in my opinion,
Riley couldn't throw the ball.
in my opinion, if I'm Marcus Freeman and I'm thinking like a Dayton guy, getting Riley Leonard is securing me a national championship. He's a top 5 quarterback. He's getting all this buzz. We're a quarterback away from making a deep run in the playoffs. He knows that without Riley Leonard, we can win and get into the playoffs with the schedule we have. He knows what a Miami of Ohio looks like. He knows what a Purdue looks like. He knows what a Northern Illinois team looks like. He knows that he already got the Florida State matchup, looking forward to that. So the roadmap is laid out. We have more depth in the teams that we're playing in the regular season.
You know, you're going to make me quote my granny again. And another thing she would always say is, a lie don't care who tell it. You telling me that if there was an undefeated season by the quarterback that was already, that you love oh so much, that you believe, oh, he's basically the same guy, you know, he may be even a little better as a passer. That guy, you're telling me, same result, and everybody's happy with him, but Riley Leonard was brought in specifically to win the national championship. You want to know how I know that's not true? Sean just said, at the moment, we know we're a tier 2 team. And that's not, and this is not to knock Notre Dame and say tier 2 is terrible. Tier 2, to be honest, let's be very honest. People like to lie about Oregon. Oregon is tier 2. They're not tier 1. Tier 1 is that Bama, Georgia, that we in the playoffs every year. It's that Michigan after Connor Scallions got it's that. That's tier 1. That's tier 1. And that, to me, gives you that right to say national championship or bust, or you disappointed me. I don't give a damn how much you pay for a player. If you know that you're tier 2, and this is not a knock on Notre Dame, because I believe that Notre Dame is right there up against.
We're not a tier 2 team. And the difference is the fact that, think about it, we don't go get Riley Leonard if we didn't believe that he could win us a championship.
That's crazy.
And not only that, we've already been down the road of having an undefeated season with the winningest quarterback in history and falling short and didn't even look like we had a chance for a moment.
So you're telling me the team will refuse to get
Riley Leonard repeating what we've already seen is not the expectation that we're looking to have.
So you're telling me a team will refuse to get better if they didn't know, hey, this guarantees us a national championship.
We went undefeated.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that. You had to cut the camera off so the people can see.
What was the reason of getting Riley Leonard? What do you believe the reason of getting Riley Leonard was?
You probably kikiing and laughing with a nice piece of cheesecake, knowing I got these fools hook, line, and sinker.
The only reason to get Riley Leonard is that you're saying we're winning the championship with Riley Leonard. If there's
that's not true.
So what is Riley Leonard's expectation?
To
win 10 games?
You know why you go get Riley Leonard? The same reason you go get any other player, to make your team better.
Okay, so what's better? What's better for Notre Dame? In year 3, Marcus Freeman program, what's better for Notre Dame? Because getting to the playoffs is not what we paying Riley for, because he's a 1-year thing.
What's better is what is better. I'm sorry to tell you, what is better is the fact that if you did not have him, the fact that you're telling me, oh, if we had the quarterbacks who were already on the roster without him, we'd be happy with just going. But now that he's here, it's championship or bust. Absolutely championship or bust. He's a top 5 quarterback. He's supposed to be supposedly this big, bad, talented guy. Yes, that's why we went to get him, because we believe that with our currently constructed roster, without Riley, we're a playoff team. Top 10 defense with Denbrock looking at a top 10 offense. That's a playoff team without Riley Leonard. Getting Riley Leonard, you're talking about a guy that's going to make the plays and the moments in the playoffs that'll win a championship, because he has, quote unquote, the first round talent. We've missed the first round talent at quarterback, which has been the difference in the playoff games. Trevor Lawrence versus Ian Book twice. We just lost those matchups from a better quarterback. So just to be sure.
So apparently we have a guy that's at that esque level to where in the playoffs that's going to matter, because as we are constructed, we can win the schedule that we got with whoever's at quarterback from paper to paper. So getting Riley Leonard is for what? You can't tell me Riley Leonard is for 10 wins, because then I'm like, oh, we're just wasting $2 million. Just give it to me and I'll be the general manager.
So just to be sure here, the difference between Clemson and Notre Dame and when the Trevor Lawrence was there was just Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely, because when we played the Clemson team with DJ Uiagalelei, it was a nail biter. We had to go to the nth extent. When they had the Clemson Tigers with the same team and Trevor Lawrence, it was Trevor Lawrence made 4 or 5 plays and it blew the game out the water. Game was over. Good night. Nothing we could have did. He ran the dude over. He made some great throws late in the game. That is a player difference at quarterback that we didn't have. We had a good first half attempt. There was a couple shots that we missed, but that was it. That was it. That's the difference.
So just a question: What was the score to that DJU game? DJU and
45-44. It was some crazy game. It wasn't something like that.
No, stay with me here for a second. 45-44.
That was the Clemson game, right? You talking about the Clemson game?
Yeah. So
the Clemson Tigers game. The Clemson Tigers game. That game was way different.
So let me do the math here. DJU, who was the backup, correct?
His best game to this date, and he's been 5 years in college.
Hold on. The backup, right? That was a backup, right? He was a backup at that time, right?
He was.
The backup, who then got his spot taken the next year, put up 44 points. And you believe that the quarterback was all it was that kept Notre Dame from winning that game. I'm telling you, listen.
Yes, absolutely. Because Ian Book came down that last drive, put a score on the board. DJ ended up throwing a pick at the end of the game. So, or something like that. So when it comes to when the only difference in the game between that game and the playoff game was Trevor Lawrence.
Again, so a backup putting up 44 points is okay. That's not indicative of any problem other than, our quarterback. Our quarterback is a little better than theirs, and that's why they were able to put up 44 points.
Our quarterback made plays down the stretch when theirs didn't, and that determined a big part of the game.
Taken the next year, put up 44 points. He got his spot taken by a quarterback who everybody's asking to be replaced right now. And
that's the point. Yes, that's the point.
Problem. Trevor Lawrence was the difference. I'm with all due respect to Notre Dame. I believe I have seen it with my own 2 eyes. I was alive for Notre Dame. I believe I was alive for Notre Dame's last national championship. I believe. If not, I just barely missed it.
But think about the team we're talking about. The team that we beat is also the same team that, with that same quarterback, that same year, won the championship. Or the next year after that.
DJU did not win a national championship that year.
The year after that, or the year after that. Whatever year Trevor.
They did not win a championship with DJU. They didn't.
No, not.
No. They didn't win. They didn't win a championship. That's when they lost to LSU.
Exactly.
They lost to LSU. But they went to the championship with Trevor Lawrence. Is what I'm saying. That's the same Clemson team I'm talking about.
Well, KG, no one breaks down film better than you. I would challenge you to go back and look at that ACC championship game. Notre Dame dominated the first quarter. They intercepted Trevor Lawrence. They failed on 2 4th down conversions. They should have been up double digits on Clemson. They had chances early to put Clemson behind the 8 ball and make it tough on them.
But at the end of the game,
Trevor Lawrence woke up. And that was pretty much the game. That was it. So
I'm not in any way, shape, form, or fashion saying that Trevor Lawrence made no difference. I'm not saying that. I am absolutely acknowledging that Trevor Lawrence's quarterback play better than what Notre Dame put out that day, without a doubt. What I am pushing back against is this idea that Notre Dame was seamless everywhere else. Everywhere else, you could not find nothing. It was just a
go back to the Ohio State game.
Well, let me ask you both this question. Let's go back to the ACC championship in 2020, and then let's go back to the 2018 semifinal down in Dallas. Switch the quarterbacks. Does Notre Dame win the game?
And here's the thing. I absolutely believe Notre Dame wins those games. Yes. Yeah. But again, you're talking about 2 quarterbacks that were not said to be good, not said to be potential first rounders, said to be generational.
Right.
That's what you're looking at. Right. Trevor Lawrence was said to be – people forget because of the whole Urban Meyer fiasco and the fact that the Jaguars refuse to actually do some scouting and do some real work and just overpay every wide receiver that's coming off a decent year. People confuse what Trevor Lawrence was coming out of college. He was so good. They said if he could come out his sophomore year, he'd be the number one pick. His sophomore year. So it's not. That's like saying, oh, if you put Jordan on the Suns instead of Barkley, who wins that series? That's not to say Jordan and Barkley are the same type of player, baby. That's not. You can't. I'm trying to tell you. I do agree that yes, with better quarterback play, you do expect Notre Dame to win more of these big games than not. However, the idea that any quarterback who is and let me just say this. Left, if you actually believe that Riley Leonard is just a scrambler who happens to throw the ball sometime, then why do you believe or expect him to win a playoff game and get you to the promised land? If that's what you believe about him, and you know this team is going to start him, you're setting yourself up for misery. That's like being a Lions fan back in the early 2000s expecting the 12-win season. We never did that.
This is the difference. I understand where Riley's strengths are. Mm-hmm. I understand what makes Notre Dame consistently a 10-win team that has been however many years.
Right.
Leonard fits what the formula is to have a successful 10-win season and a playoff run with the style of play that he has. The difference of Notre Dame falling short in big games is the quarterback talent when it comes to throwing outside the hashes, period. Okay. Because we played seamless against the seamless teams. We played great against Georgia in 2018, but the quarterback was the difference. We played great against Trevor Lawrence when they were undefeated and had 4 All-American D linemen, and the quarterback was the difference with 2 touchdown passes. We played Ohio State when they was who they were at home and played a seamless game on both sides of the football, and we missed opportunities specifically from the quarterback position. So, yeah, there's been a true defining difference between those big games that we played and winning them and losing them. The times that we've won those big games has been win. Mm-hmm. The times that we've never played a big game where we've had the better quarterback and lost the game.
And I hear you, But again, I'm simply saying that if you don't believe that, that Riley Leonard is an elite quarterback, then why not tell these fans, hey, listen, I'm watching this season to make sure everybody has fun. So we should just enjoy this thing.
Riley Leonard is going to have these regular season opportunities to get better throughout the season because he has a good team, which means he's beating that curve. We've already seen that it takes 2 years to really get the most out of a transfer quarterback. I agree. Denbrock experiment. So we already know that Riley Leonard is going to have a good time handling the curve of having great resources, and it's going to be on him in the playoffs to make plays that he can't just follow what the play says. He's got to make plays outside of that. That's what is up for question because I know that where we fall short, Riley Leonard hasn't been great at. Having the Denbrock and having these resources, having better receivers, having no excuses that you give him when he was at Duke, this is the opportunity for him to potentially do it or not do it. The chances of him doing it, I say, aren't great because of the numbers that he's put up in totality. I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm saying the numbers don't match up to what I expect the offense of a 40-plus point averaging offense to have. Denbrock said he wants top 10. Well, you're taking a top 10 offense with a quarterback that has 3 months to have physical reps to get ready to take on a season. That's kind of crazy.
It's hard. It's hard to even hear what's coming out this young man's mouth right now because he said we need a quarterback who can make plays off schedule. Okay.
No, he has to know it's going to be moments within these playoff games where it has to be an elite quarterback to make play. I don't know if it's going
to wait a minute. Don't change it now. You said what you said. You said you need a quarterback who can make plays off schedule. That's what
off schedule, which is a strong point in his game. But that's
the point.
But a strong point in his game hasn't been making off schedule plays with his arm.
I am sorry to tell you this. I'm sorry to tell you this, Malik, because I know you know ball. That's why this conversation is hurting me so much. I know you know ball. I know you have watched quarterback play that you thought, it's good, it's bad, it's all right. The belief that Riley Leonard struck his biggest strength, not just running the ball, is, oh man, we in scramble drill. I got to find something and making it work. The biggest knock on him is that he holds the ball too long, that he does not take the easy reads at moments. Now, I tell people all the time, it's easy to say, just take the easy read when you're playing with guys that could take that swing past 60 yards. It's easy to do that. It's harder when you got an accountant next to you. You got Enterprise's next regional manager at tight end. It's different to trust that everybody's going to do what they need to do, as opposed to playing in Notre Dame where
but you're asking him to change his game. He's been playing with guys that are going to be mechanics and plumbers and
this is what I'm trying to tell you.
But the difference is, how do you tell a guy that's okay, you can hold the ball a little longer because we know you don't got nothing. We're going to give you the excuse of not being on time and having bad habits because you're having a trash team around you. Now you have a good team around you. And now you have to be on point more than often. We don't need you to hold the ball, run around forever, because sometimes we're calling things for you to be on schedule because we need players that we have to make plays. So can you be from a playmaker to a dispenser, a guy that could be a game manager in a sense, but also make elite plays? That's yet to be seen.
You want to know one of the greatest arbiters of that change? Time and the talent around you going to another level. I'll give you a prime example out of a team that Notre Dame is fairly familiar with, and that I'm extremely familiar with as an ACC guy. In watching Kenny Pickett at Pitt, those first few years had many of the same problems as Riley Leonard. He had many of the same problems because Jordan Addison had not come into himself yet. Fryermuth had not come into himself yet. He was struggling because he did not have the talent around him that he believed he could trust. You watch the film, you could see the same things with Riley Leonard that he struggles with in Kenny Pickett. Too much burping the baby. Too much what's going on.
Kenny Pickett had years now. Let's be fair.
Too much.
Kenny Pickett has years.
And
Riley Leonard's trying to take a crash course.
As those guys got better talent around them, all of a sudden, oh man, what happened? Oh, he becomes something different. Oh, he becomes something so special that we've never seen before. It's not that Kenny turned into a different player because he was just so much more comfortable in that system. Jordan Addison was running butt naked open half the time. Kenny Pickett has throw the ball up to Fryermuth. That's not a 50-50 ball. That's a 75-25 ball.
You've been on
Notre
a team.
Dame has those types of guys.
You've been on a team with a quarterback that you believe in, right?
Absolutely.
How much time does it take for a guy with only a fall camp to build that team where you can believe he can win you the games that you need to win?
I am telling you, I have seen teams where the starter got hurt and a backup freshman had to come in. And because we believed and knew, hey, we're going to be all right with him, there was a drop-off, no full transparency, full honesty, because he was taking second-team reps all year. You did what you needed to do. I'm believing in Riley Leonard, not just because of, hey, I've seen this guy, he's immensely talented, because I have seen him. I've seen him play in person. I've seen him play all 22. I've seen it, watched it. And last time I was on this show, you made me go back and watch the film because I felt like I was in Bizarro World. I said, am I crazy? Am I in the dope? Is it me? Is it? I had to go back and watch the film, and I said, no. Let me tell you something. Will and Jada had more separation than his receivers could get from anybody. You understand? Like them boys could not get open to save their lives. And even in the few moments where they were able to get open, more often than not, either Riley Leonard was hitting them or that was not the read that he was supposed to be on in that moment, and you could see it. Rarely ever did you see him coming back to the sideline to Elko screaming, "What are you looking at? What's going on out there?" Rarely ever did you see his old coordinator having to tell him, "Hey, you got to make a better decision here," something along those lines. The main thing that I saw being told to him, take the easy play. And I am telling you, with a team where you can trust, with a quarterback who can now trust the guys to make it easy, he's going to do what he has to do. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And again, I'm going to be excited when I can come on here after the first round of the playoff. And I get to talk my talk. And I get to say, "Oh, look at that. The trust fund, baby, is earning." Let me tell you something. I hate nepotism just like the rest of them. But Kyle Shanahan is working out, is he not? I hate a guy that comes into a great situation sometimes too. I hate to see a guy that's born on third base and think he hit a home run too. But sometimes they a damn good hitter that's born on third. That's just what it is. Kenny Griffin Jr. was just Kenny Griffin Jr. I'm sorry. I am telling you right now, if you don't believe in Riley Leonard, that's all right. That's all right. The season is almost here. Look, I know you can smell it in the air. You can smell that camp grass in the air, can't you? You can feel that camp moisture. You can feel that 12 hours of practice. Then you go home and watch more film. You can feel it in there, and I can feel it too. I'm ready to watch Riley Leonard prove you wrong. I'm ready to watch him, because guess what? When we come back, that big Steve Angeli lobby that kept me off the first time, y'all ain't going to be able to shut me up after that playoff win. Y'all ain't going to be able to talk me down. Y'all ain't going to be able to say nothing, because I'm telling you right now, that man is everything that you believe he is and more. And I'm telling you that as somebody who has seen him game in and game out when Duke was dead empty, when nobody was there all the way up until Clemson last year. I saw it, and I know that he can win you that game multiple different ways. He is not a one-trick pony, especially when you put him with some talent.
Lucky Lefty podcast, man. We start to transition away from Riley Leonard, and let's transition to the ACC opponents on Notre Dame's schedule and the overall preview of the ACC. KG, how would you characterize this ACC season, especially with the turmoil business-wise concerning the future of the conference? We know that has been at the forefront, but would you characterize this as a race that is pretty wide open with Clemson in the top 25? You have your Wolfpack in the top 25, Florida State in the top 25. But other than that, you have teams that I think are pretty dangerous with Georgia Tech, showing how much money they got, getting Josh Petty with that check.
Hey, that check ain't petty.
That check was nice. And so how would you characterize, just before we get into the particular teams, how would you characterize how people should look out for the ACC? Who, by the way, they've had their way with the SEC early on in these seasons, the last 3-4 seasons.
Hey, you said it, not me. You know what I mean? You said it, not me. But in all seriousness, I think that when you look at the ACC overall and you talk about how wide open it is, this is the most wide open that the ACC has been in, I want to say, a decade plus. There are multiple teams at the top that you look at and you say, hey, they can play high-level football. But every team at the top has major questions, right? You look at Florida State, who's ranked number 10. The hangover effect is real. Like the Super Bowl loss hangover effect is real. And Florida State fans can play around like a 60-point drubbing at the end of the season means absolutely nothing because all of your players sat out. That's a real thing that happened. And there's no easy way to erase that being your last game. There just isn't. I'm sorry to say that. It's going to be very tough to make that happen. And then you look at the next team up, which is Clemson. Clemson has the biggest quarterback or the biggest question mark at the most important position in football. Can Kane Klubnik make a good decision? You threw a bubble screen on 4th and 1 with a 230-pound back that was averaging 5 yards per carry. My brother in Christ, what are you looking at? Why? Why would you do that? It's nonsensical to say the least to see that moment be one that defines their season. And then you think, okay, he'll get it together after that. Turns a play that was called a dive that Dabo went in front of the nation and said there was no option. I don't know why he pulled that ball into a loss at Miami. It's a little confusing sometimes when I see him. So Clemson has questions there. They also have questions about you trust that they've recruited well, but can they overcome their lack of usage in the transfer portal? Every other team is using the transfer portal to fill in gaps. Do you not believe that Clemson could have used a Riley Leonard, a Cam Ward, Grayson McCall, one of those guys at quarterback that you know, hey, this is a proven product? If you don't, I've got bad news for you. I'm sorry, you're wrong. So Clemson has questions there. And then you move on to Miami. They're the offseason champs. They're champs every year in the offseason. You know, going way back to Catholics versus convicts. They've always been coming in the offseason. Oh, man, Miami going to be special this year. You know, they're going to be. And we ain't going to talk about the fact there was some convicts amongst the Catholics too, because, you know, there's a Notre Dame friendly positive. I'm going to cool out on that. But the reality is that team is always, they recruit better than everybody else. They've got all these star-studded names. They got all these guys. Last year, people don't realize they had 3 guys that were in, like, I believe it was something like 80% of mock drafts by large publications as first rounders. Where'd that get them? They lost a game because their head coach refused to kneel after he already lost another game in the exact same way at Oregon. I'm worried about their coaching. I'm worried about their chemistry. There are questions there, but there is talent without a doubt. Cam Ward and Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher may be the best backfield trio in the nation. They have that type of talent and potential, again, on paper, but you have to materialize at some point, which is where Miami struggles. And then you talk about the last team in the top 25, which is NC State. How much do you trust Grayson McCall in year one? How much do you trust NC State to no longer step on the rake, which has been proverbially their problem? They have always had moments where, okay, they're expected to be good, and then all of a sudden, something goes wrong. Boom. They win the big game. They beat Clemson. They lose to BC. They do things like that, which, you know, it leads people to have distrust in them, and rightfully so, right? It's just a thing. But again, that Wolfpack defense, you always trust them to be one of the best in the land, led by Tony Gibson. You always trust, hey, the wide receiving talent that they have this year is unlike anything ever seen in Raleigh. And that's, and mind you, I know people think ever is a long time. That's a team that had Jericho Cotchery and Torrey Holt at about the same time. That's how special the wide receiver group is right now. Joker Phillips, who coached at Florida when Percy Harvin and Riley Cooper were there, said this is the most talented wide receiver room he's ever been around. So that tells you something there. These teams are good. And, of course, Louisville, who technically is not in the top 25, but received the most votes. They received the most votes in the nation in terms of teams who did not make the top 25. They, everywhere they're good, except you're trusting Tyler Shuck to stay healthy. Now, Sean, trusting Tyler Shuck to stay healthy is like trusting me to grow braids overnight. It's you know what I mean? I could come win tomorrow, but if you trusted me to grow them, it's a bad bet. So, you know, all in all, a bunch of teams at the top have really big question marks to answer. So this season could be a year where you see a team like a Virginia Tech who's returning more production than almost anybody in the league and has as dynamic of a quarterback as anybody in Kyron Jones take off. It could be a year where SMU, y'all know how much I love the Pony Express. You know, free Sherwood Blood and Company. They ain't do nothing wrong. They was at NIL just a few decades early. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But, you know, you could see a year where SMU pulls their best Vegas Knights impression and finds a way to be special in year one in the Power Four. You could see a situation. I'm not going to go as far as to say Syracuse with Kyle McCord is going to do it, but Fran Brown and company could upset the apple cart. They could knock off some teams that are supposed to be the big dogs late in the season. So this ACC, I would describe as more wide open than ever, because in the past, you've always, whether or not they've panned out, you have always had a definitive favorite. That was like, we'd be shocked if they're not good. Meanwhile, Florida State, who's the favorite this year, got folks on national TV saying they're the top 10 team that is most likely to finish outside of being ranked, period, even though Michigan lost their head coach, their quarterback, their leading rusher, their leading receiver. They lost pretty much everybody who led a category on offense last year, and people still believe in that team over Florida State. So, you know, there's a lot of questions for a lot of teams. It's a wide open race.
So let's talk about two of the first teams from the ACC on Notre Dame's schedule.
Let's talk about it.
Big time revenge game. People ask me about this game. I've been on shows as a guest. Like, man, the toughest matchup after Texas A&M at the end of September. They have to, when they come in, I'm like, dude, Notre Dame That's a game that they had a chip on shoulder. Like Texas A&M is going to be a business trip. Personal, that Louisville game is personal. Notre Dame players, Howard Cross, Riley Leonard, stood and watched Louisville celebrate. They stood and watched it, knowing that their college football playoff aspirations were done. Yeah. Louisville comes back, the transfer portal, they tried it again. They tried to restock. I don't think they did as good as a job as they did last year. We already know they have one of the best in the business as defensive coordinator. Like you said, questionable quarterback situation, year 2 of the Brom offense. But then again, they don't have the same depth at the wide receiver position that they had last year. So how do you view that game? And do you feel like, Louisville might be walking into a buzzsaw in South Bend based upon what happened last year in Louisville?
So if Louisville had lost last year, even if it was a close game or had they got their heads beat in last year, I would say that this is one of the first times all season that I would label a home game as a trap game. Because Louisville is a team that, while many don't believe their ceiling is very high, here's an interesting fact about Louisville. At ACC Media Days, they were the number 4 team, okay? They were number 4. People picked them to be the 4th best team in the conference. They were the only team in the top 6 with not a single vote to win the conference. So what does that mean? People believe in their floor, not their ceiling. If this team were coming off a situation where Notre Dame did not see them coming and they were going into South Bend, I would say Notre Dame need to watch themselves. Because this game is personal, I don't see a world where Louisville can win this game. I think that they may be able to keep it close. If they play their absolute best ball on that day, they'll be able to keep it close. I do not think that Louisville can win that game. I just don't. I don't see a world where that happens.
The game that I'm worried about, because you mentioned this, I think this is a tough game starting the season for the Florida State Seminoles. Because I worry about Notre Dame. It's a home game on the schedule, but going to a neutral site in another team's backyard, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the offensive players they have coming back, some of the defensive players they have coming back, some kids that transferred from Notre Dame, or wide receivers that were committed to Notre Dame in last year's class, now that are going to be freshmen on that squad, Isaiah Canyon, and then King at the quarterback, man. They just, if they catch one of those Steph Curry last 2 minutes and 45 seconds, the Olympics, they could give Notre Dame some problems,
So here's the thing, Sean. I would like to believe that. I would like, for the sake of the ACC, I'd like to believe it. The only problem is this. Notre Dame is known for what? What is Notre Dame known for offensively?
They're going to run that rock.
Georgia Tech was not only the worst team in the ACC in terms of stopping the run, they were the worst team by a mile, allowing 220 yards per game. I believe over 5 yards per carry last year. They weren't playing Notre Dame every game, and they allowed that. I am sorry to tell you that I would be surprised. I would be shocked if that game was close, and I mean that. And here's the thing. I believe in Haynes King. I believe in Haynes, their running back. I believe that they got some dudes offensively. My problem is, even if they did a complete 180 defensively in terms of everything that they did schematically, do they have the horses in the stable to be better at stopping the run? Not enough for me to pick them against Notre Dame. Unless I see, unless left is right and my boy Riley Leonard looked like a deer in headlights when asked to do the most basic things. I truly don't believe that there's a world where Notre Dame is even threatened in this game, only because the best that Georgia Tech can do is make it a track meet for 2 quarters, maybe 3. I don't believe that this game goes into the 4th quarter close.
The Cavaliers of Virginia, Tony Elliott, needless to say, the second half, he really turned that program around, that team around. I think one of their bookmark victories when they went on the road and won that battle with Drake May in North Carolina kind of spurred the rest of their season. And they put up a decent fight against Virginia Tech. This is another young quarterback, dual threat, can make plays, real scary. He can turn the ball over as well.
Right.
You know, I don't think they pose a problem to Notre Dame, honestly.
Mhm.
But how do you see the Cavaliers, their season, their prognosis, and how that matchup with Notre Dame possibly plays out?
So Tony Elliott was dealt a bad hand that got worse, right? We know about the shooting tragedy and the senseless gun violence that claimed multiple players on that team's lives 2 years ago. And they're just now getting from under the shroud of that, right? A lot of people refuse to talk about it. It's a part of the story. It's a part of why Tony Elliott has had some of the problems that he's had. It's just a fact of life, especially seeing as how some of the players who lost their lives, not only were they fantastic men, which that's completely separate of being played, and nobody to lose their life, period. One of their leading receivers in Lavelle Davis was one of those young men that gained his wings that day. So that's something that you struggle with there. But in terms of this team's outlook for this season, they're finally coming from out under that. They're finally coming into where we're at a new place. We're at a better place now in terms of how people view them nationally and how they most likely view themselves. The only problem is that didn't help them in recruiting. That didn't help them pull in much more talent than they had. And that team was so snake bitten last year. They had a player tear both of his patella tendons last year celebrating a fumble recovery against Tennessee. He didn't get hurt. And the thing was, it wasn't even like it was a crazy celebration. He was just celebrating a little bit. Boom, done. This team is very snake bitten. I'm deeply worried about whether or not Tony Elliott will even be the coach by the time they get to Notre Dame. This game should be a walk in the park.
So now, for me, a hard team to really, you already gave. I just don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be a top 10 matchup in November. And then I can really see, like you said, the effect of the end of that season and getting smacked the way they did in that bowl game by Georgia. And then look, I don't think that first game is going to be a walk in the park against Georgia Tech. Like you said, you know, they really don't stop the run. But Georgia Tech, if they hang around, they allow them to hang. You know how first games go. It's the first game. You know, teams, it takes them a while to get into, you know, their flow. That could happen, right? And if Georgia Tech hits a heater, like they did against Louisville early in the season last year, they hit a heater and it was like, yo, they're about to blow Louisville off this field.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, Louisville with the run game turns it around, regains control. And so we'll see if Georgia Tech can solve that. But this Florida State team is an enigma to me. But we know they're talented. We do. We know they're talented. The incoming freshman class, phenomenal. Phenomenal. They're going to have plenty of speed. I just don't know if anyone can trust. I think DJ is a really good dude, solid leader. But you could be a solid leader with the voice, but your play at the quarterback position is going to have to say something that levels up with what you're saying vocally and verbally as well. I don't know if his play can raise to that level.
And here's the thing about Florida State. So while Louisville is on the lower end of that low ceiling, high floor thing, Florida State is on the opposite end. They have a high floor and all that. People don't believe in their ceiling either, but they're just on another tier from where Louisville is. People, the consensus around this team is that 10 game win or 10 win season minimum. That's the consensus around this team. But the problem is, like you said, there's the enigma of what happens when the games are close. What happens when you run into a team that you cannot run the ball easily against? Because let's just be honest here. Toffoli is a dog. Everybody talks about Jaden Ott, who's new into the ACC from Cal. They talk about Omarion Hampton, who he's going to have to be the Booby Miles of the Dirty Foot Club. And let me knock on wood, because even though I hate me some Tar Heels, I don't hope nobody gets hurt. But he's going to have to be that guy. He can run, he can catch, and he can pass. Like old Uncle said, he's going to have to do all those things. But I truly, and of course Martinez at Miami, with another team that's physical, wants to run the ball a lot, I truly think that Toffoli has a chance to be the ACC's leading rusher because he'll be heavily relied upon by this team. But the enigma comes in those close games. Who are you in those close games? Who are your receivers that have seen good playing time and that you trust in a close game? Because I don't think Florida State will have many close games up until they play Notre Dame. So, but the interesting thing about it, how many close games will Notre Dame have before they play Florida State? Who will be prepared? Who will be prepared for when it's winning time? Who is prepared to make the winning plays as far as the passing game goes? Because I think that's going to be the decider in this game. You have two teams that are as physical as all get out. Two teams that just, they're knocking. You got to play big boy football when you come on and play them. You know what I mean? You remember when you was in Little League and you were scared because you was playing the defending champs and teams would put in the extra hit pad, extra thigh. Then it's that type of game where either you come with your big boy britches or you get embarrassed. I think both teams physically will be able to match each other one for one. Great offensive line against great pass rushers on both sides. You've got situations where your linebacking core at Notre Dame is less experienced than they were last year, but more athletic. I mean, let's just be very honest. You got some freaks over there, not even talking about that secondary. So your question becomes, what do both of these teams look like when the going gets tough and you need to be able to pass the ball? Who do you trust more? And I trust Notre Dame's wide receiver quarterback combo a little bit more than Florida State's. But I make no bones about it. I don't believe that Florida State will be unranked in this game. I think that Florida State worst case scenario is like hanging on to the top 25, but I don't think there's a world where they're unranked walking into this game.
All right, before we let you go, appreciate you. Ken Gibbs joined us. Go follow him, TGIF_Kent. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's it. TGIF_Kent.
Mm-hmm. All right, follow him right now. And then you can follow him as always, YouTube, Locked On ACC, Locked On College Football. Fill in the blank, KG, before we let you get out of here. The best player in the ACC is...
Ooh, that's a good one.
It was easier last year, right?
It really was. It really was. There are a ton of really good choices here. And, I know everybody wants me to go with an offensive guy because there's going to be some dynamic offensive talent here. But I think that the guy that I want to say is the best because he's going to combine position versatility with a defensive coordinator who's willing to move him around to wherever he can gain an advantage. Aston Gelati of Louisville. You're going to see him. You saw him last year. You saw how special he was last year, wreaking havoc in that game against Notre Dame to some extent. He's going to aim to do the same thing every game this year. And I think that defensive or offensive coordinators are going to have nightmares of number 9 with all that flow coming at him from defensive tackle, from nose guard, from defensive end, from anywhere you can line him up from a 0 to a wide 9. He's going to show up. He's going to show out. And I think he's going to present problems for every team at a consistent level that I don't think any other player in the ACC will reach every single game.
The best head coach. And I think this title was pretty much obsolete because we knew who it was, but the best coach in the ACC. Let's see if this coach holds on to the title. Who is the current best head coach in the ACC?
It's tough for me to say because I want to say Norvell is going to win it, and you have to factor in recruiting into who's the best, including how you recruit the portal. However, when I think of guys who I say, hey, if you give him the same amount of time with this program, this guy, all this, what do they do with it? I know people are going to call me a homer for this, but I honestly think if Coach Doran can stay out of his if he can stay out of his coordinator's way, he'll get it. I think Dabo is much too involved in terms of not getting into the portal, holding his offensive coordinator back. There was not a more damning statement in all of college football last year than we didn't bring in I can't remember his name, but we didn't bring – I know it's Lincoln Riley's little brother. We didn't bring in Riley to run his offense. We brought him in to run Clemson's offense. What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Why would you pay the man millions of dollars to say, we want you to run what we want you to run? For that, you could have just promoted somebody. You could have just said, hey, CJ Spiller, you played here. You know the offense. Come on, be the offensive coordinator. You would have saved more money. If you're going to have that man be the offensive coordinator, let him coordinate the offense. It's a novel idea. It's crazy. But with that being said, because Dabo is Dabo and can't stay out of his own way, I wouldn't be surprised if Brent Pry were to sneak into that conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhett Lashley and SMU find their way in that conversation. But I think Dave Doeren wins ACC Coach of the Year when it's all said and done this year.
And just to support what you said, you go watch that fourth quarter and specifically the last game-winning drive for Clemson in the bowl game against Kentucky, and just watch the interaction on the sideline and the misuse of timeouts.
Yeah,
it's like, yo, the way the handcuffs that have been put on Garrett Riley is probably something. Dude, they had to lie to him in the interviewing process. There's no way. And maybe he just came for the look of the brand, for a stepping stone to someplace else. But you're right. It's absolute lunacy to bring someone like that in and say, yo, you're going to run our offense.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy. Absolutely sounds crazy. The scariest team in the ACC will be.
Who? Okay. So the scariest team in terms of, teams that people aren't necessarily thinking about in that way that could be absolutely terrifying. I've talked about them already, but the Virginia Tech Hokies, one of their biggest problems was not the total amount of yards allowed per game, but it was yards per rush. Teams could not throw the ball against them last year because their defensive backs are special. Dorian Strong may be the best athlete out of any defensive back in the nation in terms of like pure, hey, how am I testing out athlete? And he plays the game so well. And another thing, I don't even know if Virginia Tech recruits defensive backs. I think they just recruit all receivers and tell them, hey, go play corner. Defensive back. You're a receiver that like hitting. Go play corner, dude, because they got guys that if you throw the ball near them, yoinks, thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Play into Sandman for me, please, because those guys are really, really special in that regard. Their only thing was stopping the run, and I believe that they shored up that defensive line and defensive tackle to some extent by going out and getting a player like Aeneas Peoples, who's a third-team All-ACC guy last year at Duke, to be what is going to be most likely one of their starting defensive tackles. He can do it all in terms of getting upfield a lot and being good against the run as well. I get it. He wasn't the main guy because Dwayne Carter was the kind of the show there in terms of defensive tackle, but I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to stop the run at a consistent clip and they get to get into those third and long packages where they get to bring in their speed packages and all that. They get to run those exotic coverages. They get quarterbacks all discombobulated and confused. I would be shocked to say that I wouldn't be shocked to say the least if I were to see this team at the end of the season having not only upset the apple cart to some extent, but be one of those teams in Charlotte.
The best quarterback in the ACC will be.
It's sometimes the simple answer is right in front of you for a reason. And I think Cam Ward is that guy because the supporting cast around him is phenomenal. But in terms of ceiling, there's not a quarterback who has a higher ceiling than him. There's not one. There's a quarterback, I believe Kyron Drones, at his best clip. Everything goes right. He's on that same not quite, but he's fighting his way in that tier. I don't think there's a single quarterback that has as high of a ceiling in terms of doing all the things that need to be done to win you an ACC Offensive Player of the Year or Best Quarterback type of award. I think Grayson McCall can make special reads and do really good things inside the pocket. It's more mobile than people think. But Cam Ward is a guy that we saw at Washington State. We saw it in Incarnate Word. He can be counted upon to say the offense runs through you. We're going to trust you to figure it out every time, and more often than not, he's going to get it right. So with Xavier Restrepo, with Brown and company over there, the big wide receiver that I believe was an 800-yard-plus guy over there, there's a very good chance that he ends up being something good.
The most pressure is on what ACC team, program, or coach?
Let me tell you something. Dabo need to get Tyler from Spartanburg to call back. He needs to get Tyler back on the phone because that seat is getting hot as fish grease, and they need the motivation right away. You open up the season with the Georgia Bulldogs at a neutral site game in Atlanta. Let me tell you something, okay? I know many things about Atlanta, and one of them is when that mean machine in the black and red is coming, there ain't no damn neutral site. Okay, ain't nothing neutral about that. That's as neutral as you telling me, yeah, Sean, come on down to North Carolina. Just come to any random spot in Raleigh. Me and you going to be neutral. Come on now, just because we ain't in one of our house don't mean it's neutral. So, they open up with that. But on top of that, people don't expect them to win that game. They expect them to be competitive, which I think will be more difficult than some believe. And then moving beyond that, how do you take that humbling? I don't think Clemson has been on a field with a team that was outright better in a way that Georgia is going to be in that first game. And so you go from there and you say to yourself, how do you put your season back together? How do you piece your season back together? How does Dabo react to, for the first time in years, being like, damn, we were outclassed? Which, again, if they prove me wrong and they beat up on Georgia in that first game, hey, Dabo, the crown is yours. You the guy. You the man. You know, you play some Doughboys cash out. I never fell off when you walking across the podium to collect your ACC championship at the end of the year. But with that being said, Dabo has created a standard at Clemson to where last year they went 9-4, and people acted like the world was falling. If he does that again, how do the Clemson faithful react? Granted, this is a national championship winner. This is a guy that's took that program to heights that they've never been to before in terms of the consistency, in terms of stacking back-to-back top recruiting classes, stacking back-to-back playoff appearances, stacking national championship appearances, taking a place that they've never been before. But how do they react to no longer being perched at the top of the mountain? There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other tidbits you want to give about the ACC before we get out of here? Great show, man. We were able to talk about Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, the Texas A&M matchup, the boxes that need to be checked early on in that matchup by Marcus Freeman and his program. We talked about the AP top 25, where Notre Dame sits and where other teams are sitting based upon, you know, the resume versus who they might actually be. And now KG on the way out is going to give us some tidbits to watch out for the ACC and possibly some of his thoughts on Notre Dame going into the season.
Again, I'm gonna keep it Notre Dame because I know, you know, y'all don't like y'all like Ken with the melodies. Y'all don't like it when I act tough about the ACC. So that's what I'm gonna do, y'all. I'm gonna give y'all the songs to make you dance and wave your hands so it won't be no threats. I firmly believe, again, as somebody who's watched Riley Leonard as much as I have, I would be shocked to see this team not be undefeated in the regular season. I would be shocked. But even if you all aren't, you're going to make the playoff, and I believe you're going to win a playoff game behind Riley Leonard. I would be thoroughly shocked if an 11-1 Notre Dame team is left out. I would be thoroughly shocked if Riley Leonard can't get it done at the highest level to at least get you one playoff game. Those things would shock me. And I mean that because, again, I've seen how special this young man is, and I have seen him elevate talent in a way that few people can even comprehend. And I mean, like, and this is not a shot at Malik, so don't nobody go say, oh, Malik, talk about it when you left. I have seen people who know ball well that have said things about Riley Leonard, and me and them sit down, and I'll break down the tape with them. And I say, okay, what are you looking at here? Because I want to know if my evaluation of the quarterback is wrong. I want to know what I'm supposed to be seeing that he's not. And all of a sudden, the opinion starts to change on him based upon that. So I firmly believe that Notre Dame is in for a better season than most people believe. But again, you know, I hate to say this because, you know, I don't hate Duke. I'm very mad about him. But Riley Leonard is one of those guys that, you know, I really and truly believe he's a thermometer more than a thermostat. He sets the temperature in the room, and he can set the temperature of Notre Dame a little higher than what it would have been otherwise. I believe Sam Hartman was in that same way, but I believe that his skill set was fit for a very specific system in a way that Riley's is not. And that's just something that I very firmly believe about those two in terms of the difference in the athlete, the difference in the decision-making and all that. I think it's very different. So, again, you're going to have a great season with Riley. Don't you listen to that big Steve Angeli lobby. Stop listening to it. Stop. I'm here to drain the Notre Dame swamp.
Can you be mad at somebody who is just loyal to their guys?
Listen.
When Hartman came in, he was loyal to Tyler Buck. He is just loyal to his Notre Dame guys.
And what did they say on Dr. Phil? Look at your man. That's my man. And you're gonna stick with him. I'm gonna stick beside him. That's what Malik gonna look like at the end of the year when Riley done lit it up, when he probably gonna got a invite, and Notre Dame is gonna be back representing in New York at the end of the season. Because again, I would be shocked and appalled. I said last year that Notre Dame would be closer to the playoff than Georgia. I was wrong. Both teams did miss the playoff, though. So, I'm just saying. But with that being said, I mean it this year. Notre Dame to the playoff. Book it right now.
Let me ask you something, man, because I think there's a similarity in my quarterback experience, because I'm not like most Bears fans. I'm not going over the top. I understand that I hate the J.J. McCarthy news because I really felt like the NFC North had a chance to be the best division.
Oh, absolutely.
Top 2 in the NFL. I really think it's going to be that competitive. Sam Darnold now, it's like, I know that Minnesota defense is still going to be an issue.
And they said Addison got carted off.
I saw it with the ACL, so it's like they can't catch a break, pardon the expression. But I look at it now, and my quarterback experience for my fandom this year is going to be absolutely an amazing journey. Because I don't think we're going to have seen a quarterback at Notre Dame like Riley Leonard and what he possibly do. And we definitely haven't seen a quarterback in my Chicago Bear fandom at all. Not even close to what I'm going to have an opportunity to experience with Caleb Williams. So I just feel like my experience is like really high ceiling quarterbacks, not only individually, but what they can take the team to. It's going to be, for me, it's going to be pretty dope. It's going to be pretty dope for you because I think you guys are one of the top 2 teams in the conference. I think it's Super Bowl or bust right now for the Lions. Come on, bro.
Don't give me the fantasy about that.
It was a little scary when I heard Jameer got injured, and now that I know he's good, I'm like, okay. But I just really think the quarterback experience that I'm going to have being a Bears fan and Notre Dame fan is about to be a heck of a ride. And I see the similarities, and I see. My question is there undue pressure with both Caleb and Riley Leonard?
So I will say this. For both, there is undue pressure, just to different extents and for different reasons. I think that there is, I love Lucky Lefty Nation because y'all really are like some of the best fandom I've ever seen has come from the crowded Lucky. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show right now. I mean that. Some of the best, most intelligible fandom I've seen from any team, any sport comes from here. With that being said, I do understand that I've seen online there's a large contingent of the Notre Dame faithful that think how Malik think. And they're like, oh, we don't win the national championship. We wasted a year. Don't matter if we win 12 games. Don't matter if we go to the... Stop it. If you look back at this year and you say Riley got us to the playoff, maybe won a game, maybe didn't. If you look back at that and say that was the foundation from which a national champion 2-3 years from now was built upon, how do you look back at that without fondness? And when I played at Cass Tech, my sophomore year, we got to the state semifinals. We lost it on the last play. We went forward to win the first 2 Division I state championships in the history of the city of Detroit. Not a single Division I team before us had done it, nor any after us. So with that being said, I say all that to say we don't look back at that sophomore year where Keith Moore was the starting quarterback and Wolf was the starting running back and Bear and Twan and all those guys and John Jackson meant so much for that team. We don't look back at that class with disdain or like, oh, you let the whole team down. We look back at them as you all laid the foundation. And I get it. Notre Dame is different because they have a rich tradition that goes back decades. I mean, darn near a century at this point of winning at a high level. I get that. But what I'm saying is each era presents new problems, new challenges, all of those things. So with that in mind, don't give him that pressure. Caleb Williams, an entirely different reason. Because he is who he is, people believe things about him and expect things from him that are ridiculous. Yes, every number one pick has very high expectations. No doubt about that. Every number one pick does. With that being said, Caleb Williams could walk on water and people would say it's because he can't swim. Caleb Williams could cure cancer and folks would say, oh, it's because he's a selfish guy who wants to take shine away from the doctors who've been developing the cure for years. Caleb Williams, because he paints his nails, because he's very much so a different kind of guy. He's very much so is like, I'm comfortable in my skin. It ruffles a lot of people's feathers, Because anything, in the words of Deion Sanders, I believe it was in his Hall of Fame speech when he said, anytime you're making a difference and you're making a change, you're doing something different, they're going to be haters. They're going to be naysayers. And that's where you create your greatness from. Caleb Williams down the line will be great. He will be. I firmly believe he's going to give us headaches for years. I was praying. With all due respect, and I don't wish injury on nobody, I wish that J.J. McCarthy stayed healthy for multiple reasons. One of them being, I don't believe he's very good. That's just the honest to God truth. Caleb Williams is going to be special down the line. Right now, he does not process and handle the game at the level of an elite NFL quarterback. Justin Fields had the longest time to throw in the NFL last year, and Caleb Williams is exceeding that so far in the preseason. My brother in Christ, you don't understand what it's going to look like. When you got those guys making $50 million, or not $50 million, but, those guys getting $50, $60 million contracts coming at you, and they really want to earn that bonus because the sack in the preseason, you don't get paid for that. You don't get paid, you don't get paid for that. When they are getting them bonuses to go up your behind, that clock, it got to speed up. It will. In time, he'll understand what the pro game is. He has the arm. He has the processing speed. He has all the ability to do it. I think year one will be a little bit of a struggle for him because he's young. They have weapons in Chicago. They do. But he's very, very young. He'll have those growing pains. But again, people just hate that he paints his nails. He's a different kind of guy. People make a much to do about nothing in terms of a lot of things that he does. So, there's undue pressure on both for separate reasons that I would say a little bit more is on Caleb. But both of these guys appreciate what you're seeing because both of these guys are Riley. Again, he's going to shock some folks. He's going to do some things that people are going to look up and say, well, I'll be damned. You give him some real receivers and tight ends, and look what happens. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, he's a rookie in the toughest league in the world. He's going to have his moments. So, all in all, both of these guys will be just fine, but there is undue pressure on both.
Yeah, Lucky Lefty Podcast, Three's Company right here each and every Wednesday night. Don't forget patreon.com/Lucky Lefty Network. YouTube channel, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Thumbs up, hit it for us. We appreciate it. Leave your comments and questions. We respond to all once again. Sean Davis, SD2, Mike's Malik Zaire 8 on Twitter, X, and on Instagram. It is Overtime Malik, and then TGIF_Kenton. When do you get started? I know you guys are doing a lot of Locked On ACC and Locked On College Football. When do you guys get started with your previews and breakdowns of teams?
So the ACC preview is coming next Monday. We are, Locked On ACC. Prayers up for my co-host Dono. He's having a bout with COVID right now, but we're praying for his quick recovery and whatnot. This is we're rolling 5 days a week on Locked On Wolfpack. We've got all the things there for you, and trust me, even if you've been watching Locked On ACC every day, I promise you, we got some special things coming up this season. Some of the things that we did last year, we're taking it to another level. Some of the things I did on Locked On Wolfpack, we're bringing the Locked On ACC. So trust me, it's going to be a good time. I'm going to love to see the Lucky Lefty Nation in those comments and in those videos. So, come on by after you're done watching this, or before you watch this, rather, because I know we like to record late nights over here. Before you come watch this, come on over. We going to be there every day, 5 days a week for you.
Yo, best in the business, our boy Ken Gibbs right here, Lucky Lefty Three's Company. Hey, we'll be back Friday. Remember the fall schedule now, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That 5 days a week. Y'all had us working too hard, man. But we're going to give you the same amount of content in 3 days, and then the weekends with the post-game show and the only podcast with an all Notre Dame former player post-game is going to be right here on Lucky Lefty Podcast. Malik and his former teammates will be doing it after each Notre Dame game. We're the only show that's doing it that way. We spin it different. So for my boy Ken Gibbs, Sean Davis, we'll see you guys Friday. I'll have the practice report. My instant reaction from practice tomorrow in South Bend will probably be out around 11 o'clock. Practice will be done probably around 11 Eastern time. And so right around noon, right before IB goes live, I'll give my instant reaction and put it up on the YouTube page. We'll bid you adieu until Friday, man. Make sure you have a great Wednesday and Thursday and continue to spin it